be here in this board meeting, God, and we'll be able to be of good service to the citizens of Texas. And so we pray for your guidance today as we go about this board meeting, and that you would give us insight and guidance into how best to serve the citizens of the state, but also how to serve better the plumbers that serve our citizens. Again, we just thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. It is about 2 minutes after 10. I'd like to call to order the January 18th meeting of the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners. Dawn, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Frank Denton,
Here.
Mr. James Ainsworth,
Here.
Mr. Darren Black,
Here.
Mr. Milton Gutierrez,
Here.
Mr. William Falk,
Here.
Mr. Thomas McDonald,
Here.
Mr. Thomas Rice, Ms. Norma Yado, and Mr. Dave Yelovich.
Here. Okay, it sounds as if we do have a quorum. Board member Yado and Rice both have contacted me this week. Both had personal matters and conflicts. They were unable to attend. One, a funeral, the other had a doctor's appointment that couldn't be changed. So I would ask for a motion to excuse the absence of board member Yado and Rice.
So moved. Darren Black.
Darren Black moves second. Second, Mr. Gutierrez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, welcome everyone. We're glad to have those that are online as well as here in person today. We have, it's been a while since our last board meeting, and we have a lot of really good things to report and do today. My hope and goal is that we will get through items 1 through 13 before lunch. And it basically gets us through my limited remarks, discussion about our high school program, and Lynn and Ollie's work on the rural program. And then we'll break for lunch. Most likely it's going to be about 12:15, 12:30, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then we'll pick it back up after lunch with Lisa and the staff report. So for those of you who are not gluttons for punishment, they want to sit through the whole thing and you want to sit part, leave and come back, that's generally how we're going to try to make it work. Under the chairman's remarks, we have completed what I consider a complete town hall series for 2022. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess we had 13 town halls, 13 town halls over the last 12 months. And I would consider them a real success. I know I personally gained a lot and learned a lot by interacting with the plumbers. I know several of the board members attended some of them, and I think they benefited from it. And I hope that the plumbers did also. But it's something that I want to continue, and let's do it again. But one thing I was going to ask the board, and unless you make me do it, I'm going to defer starting these up again until June. And the reason being is we've got the legislative session that's already just started. And most, I'm going to say some of the time, if not most of the time, when we're called to testify before a Senate or a House committee meeting, they give us sometimes 24 hours notice or 2 days notice, or maybe a week if we're lucky. So I hate for the staff or the board to be scheduled to be in Brownsville and Paso or Tyler, Texas on the same day that we get asked to go to a committee meeting. Plus, if we get through the legislative session, we'll have something new to tell through. So unless there's objection, that we will start them up again, but let's defer them until June. Unless that makes sense to everyone to do that.
It does.
I definitely want to do them. And most likely, we're gonna go back to the same areas. One place we didn't get to that I wanted to get to was over in the Beaumont area, the Golden Triangle down there, in Beaumont, Port Arthur. Maybe we might start there this time in June. But I really got some really good insight. Our attendance was good, fair to poor. And we had it all. We had as many as 156 people in San Antonio. Down to Ron and I went one time and we were the majority. So I guess that was in Corpus Christi, yeah. But it wasn't a total bust because as it turned out, and I think I might have reported this last time, we didn't have a large attendance at the meeting, but we did get some TV time. We ran into a reporter and he interviewed us and did a segment on the 6 o'clock news having to do with our high school program. So I was glad we were there and I'm glad we went. We were disappointed in the attendance, but you know, that happens. I want to take a little bit different approach this time when we do our town halls and expand them a little bit. I'm thinking, and Kevin, you can be thinking about this, but the next town halls we do, we need to make a point of inviting the legislative member who represents that area and their staff to attend these town hall meetings, as well as, and I'm not sure they will be there, but the media also. If they've got a TV station, invite them. If they got print media, invite them to get a little bit more publicity and widespread. So I think that when we come up on our June meetings, that we need to spend some time identifying the legislative folks that are in that area, invite them to come participate, ask questions or make presentations if they want to. Other than that, I kind of like to leave the format similar to what it is, unless the board members feel differently. Y'all have any comments? Or the best meeting that we had, I think, as far as benefit was one that Justin went and took copious notes. I mean, some notes that were really beneficial. And a lot of the things that were said at these town hall meetings, you will see in our rules that we've incorporated those ideas and thoughts into our rule process. So it was really good that Justin did that. I guess that was in 11. Yes. That we ran. But we've not been, the one thing that is surprising to me is there's a group of 50, maybe 100 people in the industry that follow us pretty closely and they know everything that we've done. But there's about 75,000 people out there that don't have a clue what we're doing. And I'll add a little something there. They really don't care what we're doing unless it affects them negatively. So I think that we're going to have to do a better job of communicating and getting our story out. So many times we were getting asked questions at these town halls that we've been saying at board meetings for 12 months in a row, and they didn't have a clue what we were talking about. So that's not their fault, that's our fault. We're just not doing a good enough job in communicating what we're doing and why we're doing it. So if we're looking at 23 goals, it's going to be to ramp up our communication with our industry. And the one thing I would like to do, and it's along the line of town halls, is if any board members are members of any associations like the Texas Association of Builders or Houston Home Builder Association or any other builder or trade groups that would allow us to come make a presentation to their groups, I personally would love to do it. And staff, I think all the board members would be willing to do that also. So let's look for opportunities to tell our story to the industry, not just to the plumbers. I think there's, and I have said this to Kevin in the past when we started talking about communication, this agency is, from the whole history of this agency, everyone is really hard working. And they have really done a lot of things over the last 5, 10, 15 years. But the one thing we've never done well And I think one of the reasons that we found ourselves in a little trouble, we never told anybody. You know, we work, and everybody shows up at the office and pat each other on the back, but nobody else knows what we're doing. So we have got to communicate what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I want our agency and our board to be a sense of pride to our industry. And that what we're doing it with purpose. We're not just randomly doing things, we're solving problems. So if we can see some opportunities to speak at groups, home builders, apartment associations, whatever, let's jump on that during this 6-month period that we're not doing town halls. We could do some of those. So, outreach efforts, we have, in connection with our Texas Workforce Commission, I think all the board members know this and probably a lot of the public, but Kevin and Lisa sent out an email. I think, Kevin, correct me on this, something like 10,000-15,000 emails to master plumbers announcing the Texas Workforce Commission and the ability of high schools and trade schools to obtain these grants. And I asked Kevin last week and was pleased to hear that, did you tell me that 60% open rate?
Yeah, and that's about at least double our normal open rate.
Which isn't that a remarkable? We send out 60,000 or, 10,000 emails and only 60% of them even open the email. That is amazing to me. And that's a good rate.
Yeah, that's actually considered pretty high.
Yeah, that's really high.
Most certainly.
I think, Kevin, what did you say our normal open rate is?
Just under 30%.
Under 30%.
Wow.
So that tells you why our industry knows so little about what we're doing is we have got to find multiple avenues to send our message out. And we've done it with Facebook. We've started that, and then we went up to 1,200 and some odd friends on Facebook. I was a little bit disappointed. I had Kevin open me a Facebook page. I've never had a Facebook page. So he's got me a Facebook page, and the first friend request I sent, they turned me down. And it was 71K. I asked to be a member of 71K. I said, well, that'll be a good one where I can kind of see what's going on and hear the complaints and see what we need to address. Hell, they turned me down. So I'm a little disappointed. My first friend request got rejected, but that's okay, because I don't be looking for me to post anything or accept any friend requests. I did it just so I could kind of monitor what was going on in the industry, but I guess they didn't want the fox in the hen house. They probably saying ugly things about me and they didn't want anybody to know about it, but little do they know it all gets reported to us anyway. So, but anyway, we're going to do more of that. Kevin and I and Lisa have talked about maybe finding our way to find a student to work part-time or 2 or 3 hours a day to regularly and reoccurringly post things on Facebook. We can't have a Facebook page and only put something up every month or two. Nobody will pay any attention to it. But if we have got a tremendous amount of question and answers and things on our website that nobody ever looks at. We were at the last town hall in Fort Worth. I don't think there was one question that came up that wasn't on our webpage. That could have been answered on our webpage. Some of them in the room didn't even know we had a website. So I can see us feeding a steady diet of questions and answers and things that are already on our website, on our Facebook page. And maybe some of these days we'll get in a position where we can get a support term time student, maybe from UT or Austin Community College that's involved in communication, to come in and put out a regular stream of information there. So that's kind of in the works. Any other ideas that you have, we're certainly open to it. But of the 60% that open, Kevin, 465 actually downloaded the letter.
Yeah.
from the Texas Workforce Commission. And that's a good thing, because what we have asked the masters to do is to download that letter and carry it into their principal or their school administrators, announcing that there were funds available to put in a high school program. So it's a pretty good sign that, you know, it doesn't sound very good, and when you've sent out 10,000 emails, but 465 people reaching out to school districts, assuming they did it, is pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. The one thing that we've got to continue to work on, and I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out. Lynn's gonna tell me how to do it. We have got to be more effective with the Texas Education Agency. I am furious that we're doing the work that the TEA should be doing. We should not be in the business of educating high schools on how to put in a high school program. That's TEA's job. TEA should have been at the Workforce Commission, setting up the eligibility for grant programs, and they didn't do it. They should be sending out notices to the school districts that the plumbing, they have not done it. And I don't know what to do to crack that nut. We're going to continue to work on that to try to find some inroads or some cooperative agreement we can do with the TEA to get them to help promote the high school program. I think that we probably will need to lean on legislators to lean on TEA. It's been my experience. They know, and it kind of leads into the second item on the agenda about our high school trade program. We get asked all the time, how many people are implementing a high school program? Well, everything we have is anecdotal. All we know are the people that have reached out to us and we've sent them information. We don't have any statistics or knowledge of who's actually putting in this high school program. I've got a sneaky suspicion that TEA does know that, and that type of information is available to them. But it's been my experience, they don't give that up until you show up at a legislative hearing and some legislator asks me, he says, how many high schools are doing it? I don't know. And then TEA will walk in, well, we happen to have the statistics on that, and, you know, they lay out some type of, you know, they know everything. So I don't know. It's a big organization, and I'm not demeaning them because they got a big job and a lot to do, but there's nothing that they do any more important to me than the program at high school. So we're going to do something to crack that nut and to try to do a better job of getting a cooperative effort out of TEA to help us with that. We don't need to be in that business, but we've done it out of necessity. The last item I'll touch on is our legislative session. As I said, it's already started. We have a list of items that Lynn has accumulated over the last few months based on board meetings and things, that a want list. We don't have a formal legislative want list. There are several things that we would like to have if it comes up, but we can live without. The absolute 100% most important thing we have to do is our legislative appropriation request. We have asked for a 30% increase in our base budget, which accounts to about $1,800,000 over the biennium, $1 million in the first year, and $800,000 in the second. We're entitled, and I think we should have every single penny of it. We didn't pad it. We didn't just ask for $1.8 million and hope we get $1 million. We won't ever die. And if I was going to do that, I'd ask for $3 million to double our budget. But we asked for what we absolutely needed to expand our testing capacity in Waco and Harlingen and our mobile unit, and as well as to beef up our administrative staff here. The one thing that has happened since our last meeting that the board, I don't think, are aware of this. And I guess if I was aware of it, it went past me, but during the last legislative session, during the passage of House Bill 636, someone, somewhere, sometime, someone took out the provision that the Attorney General's office was going to represent us in enforcing the plumbing license law. beforehand, if we had a case go to SOA, we just kick it over to the Attorney General's office and they would assign a lawyer and here we go. They notified us after our LAR was already in that the deal is off. We're no longer going to represent your agency before SOA, which kind of puts us in a little bit of a pickle, and we have done everything that we can to get them to reconsider that. But like every agency, they're overworked. They've got a lot of volume of cases they're dealing with, and they see an opportunity to not represent an agency. Well, they took it. And so we asked them if they would do it. And they said, well, yeah, okay, we'll do it. But then they sent us a cooperative agreement that wants to charge us $70,000 a year to do it, which we don't have the funds to do that. So we would anticipate that when we get our base budget back, which will be within a matter of days, the House and the Senate will send our base budget back and tell us what they're going to give us initially outside of our exceptional items we're asking for. We most likely will send in a supplement to that, asking for, number one, to reinstate the provision that provides the Attorney General representing our agency, and in the alternative, give us $93,000 hiring an attorney to represent them ourselves. So our preference is to go back the way it was, the Attorney General represent us, and the alternative will be we'll hire a lawyer to do it. And in the meantime, Lynn's going to wear several hats. If we have things coming up that need to go to SOA, Lynn's done it before. She did it with me at TDLR when she was there, I think, for a period of time, or maybe did it somewhere else.
I did somewhere else, comptroller.
Lynn has got experience in representing agencies before SOA, and she can do it. So nothing's going to fall through the cracks. We'll do it. And fortunately, she just completed a Herculean task, or is on the downside of a Herculean task of rewriting all of our rules from A to Z. So she'll be in a position to do that if we have to. The other thing that we're gonna, the $1.8 million over the biennium does not include an anticipated rent increase for our building. Our lease expires in Kenneth in August.
Yes, sir.
And I guess the Facilities Commission handles that negotiations. And we would anticipate, like everyone else in the world, for an increase in that rent. And so we'll probably have to supplement our appropriations to accommodate that, whatever that rent increase is. We did not include it in our original legislative appropriation request because it's, in my mind, it's bad public policy to tell your landlord what you're willing to pay while the Facilities Commission is negotiating the lease. So I guess we send it in as a flat. We don't want any increase. Realistically, that's not going to happen, but we didn't want to tip our hand that, yeah, we can pay 10% more. So we'll just let the Facilities Commission negotiate that lease, and whatever it ends up being, we'll probably have to put in a supplemental, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And right now, my understanding is that our contractors working with they're sending contractors out here to do some price estimates on some of the additional modifications we requested in the building. Additional office space, some other facility changes, and we're anticipating not having that completed until about March at this point.
Okay. Tony, those are the only two wild cards on our legislative appropriations request. The other items, if we're not aware at this time, and if somebody else is, they can weigh in, but last we checked, there has not been a bill filed having to do with plumbing at this point.
Don't jinx it.
Which is good for me.
Yes, please.
And that's why we did particularly try to identify someone to carry a bunch of legislation for us. It's been my experience that the only time that a whale gets harpooned is when he comes to the surface. So we're going to try to go under the radar at the time. And maybe we'll do okay. And I think that we can, through the appropriations and the finance committees, we can get done those things that need to be done to help the agency. 636 really gave us the broad legislative authority to do everything that we've done this year. So there are no major issues out there that need to be addressed other than this attorney issue and the rent increase issue. So I feel pretty good. And I'll remind the board that as board members, we are not allowed to lobby for or against any piece of legislation that might be coming before the legislature. As bad as you want to, and as strong opinion as you may have, you cannot do it as a member of the Texas State Board of Plumbing. So we're not going to be allowed. But with that being said, anytime an issue having to do with plumbing, whether it be appropriations or licensing and administrative procedure, it will be great if Lisa and Lynn, you let all the board members know when we have an item that's on the agenda, so that if they can attend, if for no other reason, they show up to support the plumbing. So let's just make it a matter of practice. Whenever we've got an issue that we've been asked to testify or offer resource, act as a resource, to notify every board member of every meeting that's going on, and they can attend. Let's attend. Many times we might ask you to testify, but we will let you know in advance if there's testimony, or when you show up to these hearings, you have to just testify in support of or against or neutral. And to have board members show up in support of our agency would be a good thing. So anything else on legislative or town halls or interagency cooperation you want to talk about? One final thing I will say on interagency cooperation is I met with TSTC about a month ago with Mike Reeser, just to kind of make sure we're still on schedule with our testing units and building the mobile testing unit and all that kind of thing. And I asked him if he would do something for us, and that's some videography work. One of the best things that we have going for it, I never hear anything negative about it, is this backflow prevention presentation that Steve puts on. He goes around to trade schools and high schools, and you never hear anything but compliments. I think you even did it for NASA a month or two ago.
Aerospace engineer.
Aerospace engineer.
You too.
Very well received, and it's a great teaching tool. And I asked Mike if they would, among other things, put out a professional video of that presentation, of that backflow prevention presentation. It's a wall of pictures, and it shows how inappropriately connected cross connections and things can contaminate water. It's very visual, very instructive, it's very informative. And so this year they are going to actually do us a professional video demonstrating that backflow prevention. And my intent is to offer it free to everyone that wants it. For high schools, continuing education providers.
When you talked about social media,
Social media, put it on our website. It's a teaching tool that needs to be done, and I think it'll be a great benefit for continuing education, for anyone thinking of getting into plumbing, for the high school plumbing program. So they're going to do that for us. I can't give you a timeline, but it's going to happen this year. He's agreed to do it, and so that's going to happen. That's another under the interagency cooperation. I also asked him, we have people still struggling with scheduling tests and renewing applications and things like that. I asked them to put together a video. Have you ever gone to a website and rather than reading instructions, it's got a little arrow? Click this box, and when you click that box, then it goes over on this. I've asked them to do some of that type of videography that we can put on our website, how-to stuff. Some people do better visually looking at instructions rather than reading it. So they are also going to do that, and Kevin and Lisa and Gloria we'll come up with what is it that people struggle with the most, and we'll probably do some videos along those lines and put it on our website for instructional purposes. So thanks again to TSTC. They've just been a great partner for us, and they continue to be a great partner for us. Let's move now to item number 6 for discussion on high school trade plumbing programs. You can read it yourself, having to do with credit and all that. One of the things that I am concerned about, and there are a lot of things that need to be done on this program, but I anticipate in a year or two, someone showing up at our front door and saying, okay, I took plumbing in high school and I'm ready to take the test. And in fact, they only took a course or two. Is how are we going to verify that this for plumbing that they took is an approved course? So Lisa, I think it's in our tab 1 or 2, has in state fashion, it's come up with a form, another form to fill out. But it basically asks the student to take this form, fill it out, and take it back to their school where they can verify to us that they have taught the approved curriculum and that student has completed it in its entirety. And it's done under penalties of falsifying a government document with a $5,000 penalty. So we believe that a school official is most likely not going to complete this and lie on it. The good news is that even if something like that happened, the belt and suspenders is the test itself. Even if they did not, even if they lied on it and somebody slipped through, they're not going to pass the test unless they've taken the approved curriculum. So we do have a backstop for that. But if anyone has got any ideas, yeah, Ron.
Well, the question is, if we go back to TEA, will we not require that it be a TEA approved curriculum?
Yes,
Should be on their high school transcript.
Right.
I don't know. Is it on their transcript that it's an approved TEA? I don't know. Maybe that's another question for TEA. How are we going to know that it's approved?
We're expecting to see a transcript with it on there.
Well, but if the transcript just has a series of plumbing courses, are we going to assume that that's approved curriculum that we have?
If they took it through a high school program, I would certainly hope they would be teaching something that could pretty much
You know, that's my question.
Mine too. And I guess that's why it's on the agenda, is that something at some point we're gonna have to work on that.
And what we did once before, when we were trying to, when we required high school diplomas and GEDs, we just kept a running list once we got one of them approved, so that we would know what kind of document each school had or whatever.
Mhm.
Not gonna be easy at first.
It's something we're gonna have to address though. It's not a problem today because if they started this year, at best they've gone through a year of the program, but next year and year after that, we're gonna have to refine this so that we know that when a student comes asking to take the test, that they've taken the approved curriculum. Same thing on the exemption from continuing education for plumbers. Again, come up with a form that individual plumber has to have completed 18 hours active participation in the high school program in order to be exempt from the program. So that'll be incumbent upon the plumber themselves, submit that to us, signed by a school official.
Is there any place on this form to identify what school they're representing?
Pretty sure we added. Yeah. What's that? You got terminal rate?
It's got school name and school district.
Yeah. I think just, yeah, it's the actual name of the.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
You know, in a perfect world, you would think TEA has got a record of all the schools that are teaching the funding program. And we could cross-reference. And I'm not convinced they don't have it. We just haven't found the person that's willing to give it to us. So we'll keep trying to do that in my mind.
Sounds like we need to establish better communication between us and TEA first.
That sounds like a good job for you.
Remember that thing about being harpooned?
My wife used to work there, so maybe I could
problem, man.
get her, get some contacts from her.
And I laugh about it, but I mean, they're a big organization, got a big job. It's just a matter of finding the right person that's yeah. And there's somewhere in that TEA organization, someone that's in charge of trade school and teaching trade programs. And if we can find that person, I think they might be the inside of the mold that we need to.
You're saying they have more than, what, 31 FTEs on board?
I think it'd be more like 3,100 FTEs they have, so. But the only reason I put it on the agenda is to get you to, the board to thinking about that. And if there's something that you think we can do or should do to verify that, share it with the staff. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to try to find that person in TEA who can help us out in doing that.
Yeah.
I guess maybe another way I'm thinking out loud right now, but I'm assuming that if someone applies for a grant from the Texas Workforce Commission, the Workforce Commission is going to have some kind of verification that it's an approved program, or they wouldn't issue the grant. So maybe our way into TEA might be through Texas Workforce Commission. Maybe they have got something silver bullet. Anyone else have any thoughts or concerns or?
Mr. Chairman, we reached out to Mr. Brown over at Tyler to see what his thoughts are, being that they're the
Not
first program.
Not specifically for this, but I think that's a good idea.
Like he would,
He was kind of the moving force behind this to start. He had, I guess, the first high school program that was put in was with Tyler, so maybe he can give us a guide. So that's a good idea.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's my understanding also, I just talked to him a few days ago, but the Belton ISD is starting to put their program together. And, we're gonna meet with a representative from Belton when they come through Waco. And we'll
Great.
see if they have,
Maybe they've got some insight.
maybe they've got some, since they just started putting their program together, and he also told me that they had applied for that jet grant.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So we should be, right on top of things.
Well, there are some schools that we know have put in the program. Wichita Falls has done it. We know Tyler's done it. Belton's doing it. We know there are some schools that have already done it. So there's no such thing in the world that something can't be done. It's just people that don't know how to do it. So we just haven't found that right person, but we will find them. But I just want to point it out that it's kind of an issue for us right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Woodville is all doing it also.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, and he was at that meeting,
In time.
in Tyler, the instructor there.
So we know, we think anecdotally, we've got probably a dozen, maybe 15 schools that have indicated that they're putting it in, so. And also, I don't want us to get in a position of being the checker of a high school. I don't want our agency have to go back and reviewing curriculums and transcripts and, well, you missed this course, or that's something that we should not be in the business of doing. We should have a bottom line, yes, it is, or no, it isn't. And if it is, they come in and take the test. If it's not, they don't.
Well, theoretically, TEA should be doing that.
They
anyway,
absolutely
so,
should.
Yeah, we should be able to figure out.
And they may be, and I just don't know it.
Information.
Maybe they are, and I don't know it.
Wouldn't you also find out, seeming after a little bit of time, X amount of students from a certain school district come in and take the test and they all fail,
Yeah,
there's something going on.
I think it's something that long-term, definitely something we should track. If we have coming in from a certain high school and they only get a 10% pass rate, we need to share that with that school and let them know that they're deficient and where they're deficient. But again, hopefully, and you get in trouble with this, but I would hope that's an educator's job, that they would track their students to see how well they do, to monitor their own performance, but we will cooperate with them to the extent that we can, because I think that's a real good point. Same thing with trade schools, whether it be TEA or Carlton County or whoever it is. I would hope they're tracking the success of their students. And we certainly will cooperate with anyone that is interested in it. So be giving some thought to that. I know the staff's giving thought to it, but I don't want it to slip up on us. I don't want to wait until a year down the road or year and a half down the road and we get swamped with 300 or 400 high school kids and not have a clue how to qualify them to take the test or not take the test. So some we're working. Every meeting we put item number 7, discussions, possible action and agency initiatives to deter unlicensed activity. You've heard me say it in the past, is I don't think we can do this without the cooperation of plumbing companies. I heard on the news this morning on an advertisement on an Austin station, a plumbing company that was running an ad. It was a nice 1-minute ad on a plumbing company. Never said one word about hiring licensed plumbers, that we employ licensed plumbers. I'm open, and I put on there, I'm wondering, should we not send out an email to all RMPs? We cannot require Lynn's check form, and we can't require that they include that in their advertising. But we can ask them and strongly encourage them to. And is that a good idea, or are we wasting our time? Or does somebody have a better idea of how to create an awareness of the importance of hiring licensed plumbers?
I do like the work Kevin put into the stickers. I just flipped to number 2. What's the board's? You've got 2 pages of them. Yeah. I think they're nice. If there's a way to make those into bumper stickers and put them on every single plumbing vehicle in the state, I think that'd be
That's the plan.
a nice program.
That's
to
the
have.
plan. Which of the 6 appeals to you?
I like both of the ones on the first 2, because like Dave said, I think those could be made into bumper stickers. Obviously, I am not a licensed plumber since I'm a building member of this board, but I would certainly put the top one on there, on my truck. Then I like the ones, on the second page. I like the ones that mention that plumbers protect our state's health and safety. I think that's something that maybe people don't really think about. You know, they don't know about the cross connection issues. They don't know about, you know, literal life and death matters that plumbers keep us from facing. So I would lean towards
I
that.
like the gold lettering.
I think that's a little letter.
Ron, yes.
Well, just speaking from a plumbing contractor, I think the idea of encouraging in the ads to we only hire licensed plumbers, I think you're gonna meet a lot of resistance. But I think if you did these bumper stickers, I think you'd see a lot of guys going on their vehicles. You know, but again, bumper sticker, how big is it?
Kevin and I talked about this earlier. I really like the second page of them,
Yeah,
but the first page is easier to read.
Mhm.
The second page is a little bit detailed and busy, and I'm not sure people would take the time to read the fine print.
Well, I think the ones on the second page, you know, Kevin, maybe you want to step in here and explain what you're doing, but it seems to me like those would be really good on, you know, the bottom of your invoices or the bottom of your, you know, quote forms or, you know, in your email signature, that kind of thing. Versus, you know, more of a bumper sticker style on the first page.
I'm assuming that it is. I'm assuming we can't require these to go on an invoice either, can we?
Probably not.
We have to they have to put their name and their license number and their address and our address and number. They don't have to use this one.
No, but we wouldn't prohibit them from it. There are a bunch
Yeah,
of
so
them
we
that
can make it
like
available
having
for free.
our seal.
There's organizations I belong to that, once I pay my dues, they say, here's a bunch of logos you can use if you want, and they're nice. And
Isn't that a good idea for new plumbers? Let's do these bumper stickers, this first class, and when we send them their license, let's send them one of these too, or a couple of these also. Every time we issue,
That's a good idea.
that way we'll make sure we get it. So let's find it in our budget to bumper stickers out of the first page and maybe a letter or some type of communication to plumbers to encourage them to use this logos on their
That's what I
invoice.
was saying. Yeah, I think
We've started looking at some printing ideas and stuff, and
And again, Kevin, this is something you can put on Facebook.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can announce it on Facebook.
And there would be a page on the website where you could download, just like, Justin said.
Download the JPEG or whatever.
But I'm gonna tell you, when you start printing bumper stickers, you better be ready, because when you announce that these are available, you're gonna get thousands of requests for them.
when you renew your license, you can have one.
Yeah. But I mean, the purpose is to get them out there, so I don't wanna make them difficult for them to get them. I want everybody to have them, so.
I think that's a great idea, just include it in their license renewal packet.
We'll have to buy a different size envelope.
Yeah, I was about to follow up with that and say, I'm not sure what effect that would have on postage costs.
We thought about several different ways of doing it, but yeah, it's pretty, and we thought about maybe giving them out at the town, in the.
Town halls, sure. Once we do them, and let's get a price on them. And see how many thousand we can get. And all this is under the umbrella of trying to deter unlicensed activity. It's creating an awareness among the public of the importance of hiring a licensed plumber. So you'll see it on next month's agenda. So if you've got some ideas that you want to talk about, let's bring it up the next time. But in the meantime, let's do some bumper stickers and let's do some publicity on the website and Facebook that here's a logo. We suggest that you put it on your invoice. That's fun. Anything else under this subject?
You might, on that intern or whatever we're going to hire or whatever.
Don't call it an intern. I get,
Okay.
jump through all, Kenneth gets all over it every time I say intern. It's part-time.
Part-time social media coordinator.
Our social media representative, you might, maybe every Wednesday. Just a picture of, unlicensed work, how bad it looks, the we were just talking about water heaters that blow up or something. That, there are ramifications for hiring people like this.
I tell you, they don't think I can see it. I guess that's why they turned me down on my Facebook request. But 71K always has sloppy plumbing jobs. And pictures, photos of plumbing jobs that are out of code, that are ridiculous. So that kind of thing, I think you're right. Dave.
If TSTC is willing to create the videos that they're willing to create, from a PSA standpoint, we could actually talk to them as well about creating a video to use as PSAs
That is true.
that they could download from every town.
I will put it on the list. I sure will. That's a good idea.
Get some free PSAs from TV and radio.
Maybe that's a potential that we could, and we could demonstrate some watched plumbing jobs that have either created a health hazard or have blown up or what have you. So I think that's a good idea.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
and don't forget that we have our water heater that we take to show and tell,
That is true.
that's got good photos and that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
We may wanna revamp that, put it out too.
Me. I'm already getting ideas, getting text.
Oh, we've got some stories. The storytellers.
Okay. All right, well, I'll read all these later, but thank you for the comments. We're already getting comments and ideas, and that's exactly what we want. We need ideas and thoughts about what we can do to help promote the plumbing trade and licensed activity. Let's go to item number 8. Lynn, you want to talk a little bit about our efforts on
Of course.
reciprocity?
Littleton General Counsel, item 8, tab number 3, a pretty short agenda item. We just wanted to keep you informed as to the progress of our reciprocity efforts. As you recall, at your last meeting, you voted to pass the agreement with Arkansas to allow agreement of reciprocity between the 2 states. As you also know, the governor's approval is required for all of our reciprocity agreements. We're happy to say the governor approved. His letter is in your materials. After we received that letter, we publicized it on our website, and that agreement is live. So we're moving forward with Arkansas. As to any other states, we're still talking with Mexico and Oklahoma. We've had other states indicate that they are interested in discussing with us possible reciprocity agreements. We're just proceeding on the path of finding if we have equivalent standards. And that's pretty much the long and the short of our reciprocity efforts.
Well, let's stay on it. I think the board is open to keep doing what we've been doing. We don't want to let anyone in that's doesn't have substantially equivalent program as we do. But I think it's the will of the board that we continue to try to look for opportunities to do reciprocity agreements. We talked earlier today or this week with the staff about Utah. And Utah is unfortunate. They don't allow reciprocity agreements. Their statute doesn't allow them to enter into them. And it's unfortunate because, as I'm told, the staff has looked at it and they really are just right there with us on their training. So what most likely we will do, and I think Lisa's got the authority to do this, but I want to make the board aware that we are doing it. If someone from Utah comes in, I guess maybe we'll formally go through some process to show that they are substantially equivalent as us. We can recognize their license and go ahead and issue them a license if their program is substantially equivalent. And it's the same thing as a reciprocity agreement, other than they won't do it for us because they can't by statute do it for us. So, but as I understand, they've got also a pathway where a Texas license holder can get into Utah, but it's not through reciprocity, it's through some other process. So I would say on the Utah, if it turns out after the analysis is done that Utah is substantially equivalent to ours, then we'll go ahead and recognize Utah. And I don't know if it has to be a formal process or not, but or Lynn, you and Lisa can get together and see what we need to do to.
We'll make another one of those forms.
Another form, all right. That's what we're looking for.
I might say we might.
We're gonna have forms the size of this book if we're carrying it. Probably.
Government agency. The note about Kansas and Wyoming, if there's just local control of these things, I would stay away from those states just because there's some that are really good. And then there's some that, oh, everybody gets licensed. So I wouldn't even entertain those.
Yeah, if they're not close to the same program as we have, we're not gonna waste any time on it. And I think staff knows that. So. Do you have any numbers of how many people have actually exercised that right of reciprocity?
You know, we've had this conversation. I do not have any numbers.
Lisa might.
But Lisa may.
There's actually 25 that have done the reciprocity process. And used our reciprocity form.
Louisiana, I take it.
Louisiana, in particular, but currently we do have about 4 Arkansas that we're working on,
Okay.
and we'll see how that all plays a part.
And you know, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal. Get 25 or 30 new journeyman plumber in Texas. That's a pretty big deal.
I mean, since we've tracked out of state people, in our regulatory database. We've done that since 2017. We called them out of state. So they're a mixture of all different kinds of ways to approve. Well, most of them have taken exams, but since 2017, we've got about 5,000 of those. In the last 2 years, 159 have been from out of state that have examined, and
Mhm.
now we've got this 25 we're working on here.
Anyway, we have a mechanism in place for that to happen. So that's the good thing, and it actually is working, so.
Mr. Chairman, just a little anecdotal story. My nephew is a senior this year. He was looking to be he doesn't want to go to college. So he was looking at becoming a welder. And so then I said, well, have you looked into plumbing? And I said, no, I haven't. I kind of explained kind of like what the process is and the career path and everything. And this was back in September. December, he told me he's now looking into plumbing.
Cool.
And I said, well, did you know also that there is this agreement between Arkansas and Texas that now you can, you take your test in Arkansas and it'll be recognized too. Is it really? Because I wanted to go to Texas, but I didn't know.
Oh, he's in Arkansas?
He's in Arkansas, in Little Rock. And so now he's like, well, now I can move to Texas and take my license to Texas. I'm like, yes, you can now. So, all right.
That's great.
A little anecdotal,
Everything helps, and it's creating an awareness of the industry, and that's exactly what we need to do, is get the word out there to try to increase the number of people that are getting into plumbing. And I think we're doing a pretty decent job of that. I think when I look back over the last 2 years, if I do say so myself, this agency has moved mountains, and it's just done a tremendous amount of work. There is nothing that was an issue 2 years ago that's not either been solved or it's in the process of being solved. And when we get the Lisa's report after lunch, I'm going to submit to you that it's solved. So that has to do with the testing and the scheduling. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. But more importantly, we haven't just addressed the problem in the past. We've put together the framework and the infrastructure to handle all this influx of new plumbers coming out of high schools and trade schools that we anticipate a year or two down the road, which fits right in with our LAR and right in with the money that TSTC has spent. So we're out ahead of the curve on every respect. So, all right, but it's about 11 o'clock. We've been going about an hour. Let's take about a 10-minute break. And then when we come back, Lynn, we'll pick it up and we'll get into our rules discussion and see how long that takes us. So it's 1 minute to 11. Let's come back at 10 after 11. We're going to call the meeting back to order. And we're going to move into the section now having to do with rules, either proposals or adoptions. And I want to go in by saying that, and I've told them this personally, but Lynn and Ollie have just done an outstanding job on these rules. We have gone through every single rule that exists at Texas Plumbing Board and have either modified it, kept it the same, or repealed it. And I think so many people don't realize what a Herculean task that is. It's not just a matter of putting it on a Word document and doing it. There's a lot of backup. There's a lot of explanations. There are a lot of reports that you have to file with different agencies in the state. It is a huge deal. And I think the two of them have done the work of probably a half a dozen lawyers that it would take in any other agency. So I really want to thank them publicly for the work that you and Ollie have done. It's just been outstanding. And for the benefit of the plumbers, the two that might be listening, these rules and modifications weren't just something that were picked out of the air. I want to take you back about 10 months ago or 8 months ago. Lisa and Ames, a young man that used to work in our legal department, Darren Black, Tommy Rice, and myself and Steve went in the conference room and we started at the very first rule and we went through every single rule that was in existence at the time. And we made modifications, we eliminated some, we kept some. The purpose of everything that Lynn and Ollie have done is to try to, if we refer to it as a plain talk initiative, we tried to take out ambiguous terms, unneeded terms that were in there, some of the legalistic language that ties people up in knots. Our goal is to try to make a set of rules that are easy to understand and easy to enforce. So that was the goal, and I think y'all have done an outstanding job. But so that the public understands, these are not just something that Lynn sat in a room and visited with Lisa and they said, well, that's a good idea, or that's a bad idea. It's a result of an awful lot of work. Number one, initially going through those with our two of our three plumbers who were on the board. We went through every one of them. And then there's been a lot of back and forth and modification since then. So, Lynn, I'm going to turn it over to you to just go through them section by section. Lisa.
Sir, my apologies, but, can I introduce a couple of new people? real
I'm sorry.
quick?
Sure did.
I needed to let them go back to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where are they?
Here is, Ramona, and Ramona is our new person in the enforcement department. She comes to us with all kinds of skills and we're excited to have her. And so now you get a good look at her and you'll be on the phone, talk to consumers, talk to plumbers or whatever it needs to be.
Glad to have you, Ramon.
So glad to have her.
Welcome.
And now you can go back.
We're glad to see you. And hopefully the plumbers won't ever meet you. Hopefully the plumbers won't meet you. So
I hope not.
glad to have you.
And the other person, and he'll come back in just a few moments, is Ben Gonzalez. And Ben is our newest examiner in Waco. And Ben was sitting right here. But we had him scheduled to help and learn something in the exam center. And so I was kind of holding on to him and we got sidetracked.
When he walks back in, just punch Lynn and tell her to hang on just a second.
And I didn't want her to get going because I know she's gonna have to take a breath in between these, but anyway, we're so excited to have Ben and Ramona, and we hope to have another couple of people coming, and I'll tell you about that when we get to my stuff.
Okay.
And that's
Ben and both are. Steve will tell you how bad Ramona was needed in enforcement areas.
Yeah.
And obviously Ben for our Waco Center is going to be assigned up there full time. He's found him a place to live in Waco. He's moving from Dallas and we're thrilled to have him. Excellent. Are you ready, Lynn?
I am.
Let's kick it off with number 9.
All right.
361.
As item number 9, tab number 4, again, this is Millertown General Counsel. And if you look at your meeting materials, I'm just going to add you, we have a little bonus material in there for you. Thank you, Chairman Denton, for those kind words. We really appreciate your encouragement and inspiration in getting this rule work done. It has been a lot of work. And if you look at your materials, you're going to see on top just a chart. And it's basically a snapshot of the work that we have done and the roadmap we've done to progress through it, where we've been, where we're going. And I will also thank the board because this has been a lot of work on your part. So thank you for what you've done and thank you in advance for what we're going to do today. That said, I'd like to turn your attention to chapter 361. Item number 9 is the discussion and possible action to consider for posting in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment. Amendments to the rules at 22 Texas Administrative Code, section 361.1, .4, .6, .10, .12, and .15. As a result of statutory changes made by House Bill 636, recommendations made by the Rules Work Group, and board direction to simplify the existing rules. And I'm going to go through my document summary, which is also in your materials. 361.1 houses the definitions to implement the statute and the program. Definitions have been amended at A3. The definition for advisory committee is amended to be more concise. A9, the definition for certification has been amended. The definition for certification of insurance is amended to eliminate unnecessary rule and statutory references. The definition at A14 defining complaint is updated to be more concise. The definition at A18 defining direct supervision has been amended. On-the-job oversight and direct supervision of an apprentice has been amended to show that direct supervision may include virtual, visual, real-time communication. This rule is amended on the recommendation of the rules work group. The rule anticipates that technology and applications with the capability of visually streaming or projecting the job site in real time, such as FaceTime, Zoom, etc., may be successfully utilized to perform on-the-job oversight and direct supervision of apprentices in the field. The rule does not alleviate the responsibility of the RMP from adequate supervision or from ensuring that the work is performed to code. It is in the RMP's discretion to utilize optional technology as they deem fit and appropriate given their job sites, their staff, and their technological capabilities. Should inspection or investigation be done at the job site, any present licensee or registrant must demonstrate that real-time visual communication is successful and effective. The board believes that given the pandemic and the related necessary social distancing practices, virtual supervision has likely been utilized in the plumbing industry since the pandemic as a matter of necessity.
Let me stop you there, and I should have said this going forward. If we get to any of these rules and the board wants to stop Lynn, or let's talk about it or discuss it, feel free to, let's stop and talk about it. This is a big one, and it's a major fundamental shift in our industry. It is now going to allow, just so everyone is clear about this, that direct supervision will include someone on the site providing that supervision, and it can also include someone utilizing FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, iPads, iPhones, whatever device they have. Steve and I have talked about this, and I'm not really in a dream world. I know that some people are might try to take advantage of this. And I mean, I understand that. But Steve and I have talked about it. And he had a question to me yesterday, well, how are we going to know how much time we're going to give them to demonstrate that they're being supervised by FaceTime? I said, how much time do you give them now? When you show up and the master plumber or journeyman is not on the site, how much time do you give them? He said, well, just whatever's reasonable. If they're next door, if they're in the neighborhood, they come over. And I said, well, the same holds true for a virtual communication, maybe even more stringent. Because I can't imagine it taking over 5 or 10 minutes to get somebody on a FaceTime call. And if an inspector shows up on a job site and an apprentice is out there working, then the inspector is going to say, put me in touch with your supervisor. And he should have the capabilities of immediately getting that supervisor on the phone and demonstrating that he is being supervised virtually. Again, I think there are a lot of people, but we've talked about this among the board. There's nothing we can do that's going to make an outlaw a good guy. They're going to be outlaws regardless of what we put in the rules. There are a lot of people that are already doing this. So I think that we will probably be more effective than we were today. You won't get into this business of, well, he went to the parks house or he's running a couple of errands and he should be back anytime now. And the inspector's sitting around waiting for 45 minutes and he never shows up. This eliminates that excuse. If they're being supervised virtually, as we get into this, and I have promised Steve this, as we run into issues, and we will run into some issues that need to be addressed, we can always come back and revisit this rule and tighten it up and put some more provisions in it. But for the time being, it's going to be virtual, real-time, visual communication is going to be included for direct supervision. You had something?
I did. The connection between the apprentice and the licensee that's supervising them isn't full-time, it just has to be available upon demand.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Just like if on-site supervision, he doesn't have to be sitting there looking over his shoulder in a minute, he might be at the house next door. In the case of a tract subdivision.
So this basically means that licensed plumbers can start sending apprentices out in trucks by themselves.
If they're supervised. And
Yes.
I'm. People laugh at me from time to time. Maybe all the time. But I have to believe that a reputable plumbing company is not gonna send an apprentice out on a job unless that plumber is confident that that apprentice has got the requisite skills to do the job. Because as Lynn said in her statement, there's nothing in this that's gonna take the heat off of that responsible master plumber. They are still gonna be accountable and responsible for the quality of that work, regardless of who does it, just like they are today. So if we come out there and it's a code violation that was done by an apprentice, we're gonna go straight to that RMP, just like we do today.
I do have one question. Would it be more appropriate to have a definition of direct supervision and then a separate definition for virtual visual observation?
You know, we've gone around on that. We've decided to leave it somewhat open for the time being. I think what we have is probably appropriate. What you're talking about might be required as we get into this and enforcement starts enforcing it. No doubt we're gonna run into some people that are trying to take advantage of it. But I think to start out, we should start out with what we're doing and move to what you're talking about if need be. So.
Question for Steve. Have you discussed this with your field investigators? Are they aware of this yet? Okay. I would be interested in what their feedback is.
I did discuss it with one.
Okay,
While we're
because,
on a town hall, but
because, you know, they're the ones out there that see and see what's going on. And I have to believe, it's like the discussion, you're not ever gonna, a bad guy's gonna be a bad guy. He's gonna try to beat the system regardless, and good companies are gonna try to do the right thing. So, I guess where I was heading with the question, I would think in the field investigator, as they get experience, kind of like a detective, they're gonna know whether it's legit or not. I mean, do you not feel that way?
Well, for the most part, the bad actors are not gonna have a registered apprentice anyway, so it's gonna be null and void.
Exactly.
So, that's not an issue, and the bottom line is, if this is the way it goes, they'll figure out a way to handle it. I mean, it's,
Okay.
so that won't be an issue. I'm just.
Well, I mean, it's it's kind of like the emergency order when we had TSBPE added in 21. I don't think there's a legitimate company that when a weather event or a flood or something that doesn't have to put all hands on deck anyway. And like you said, you're not going to send somebody out if you don't feel like they're qualified to do the work, if you're a legitimate contractor. So, okay.
so anyway, it's gonna be a big deal.
I got a question, Steve, also. Steve, do you feel like it'd be in our benefit to add the language the same as a tradesman, limited tradesman? Being that, or are we gonna allow our limited tradesmen to now do commercial work the same way?
Well, I don't think tradesmen would have that, option to be able to do. Oh, you're talking about, let tradesmen be on,
Because this doesn't,
commercial supervised?
yes, sir.
We've always considered a tradesman on commercial as an apprentice.
Yes, sir.
In that same,
Well, my question is,
So this would
are we gonna
apply
allow
to-
their apprentices to do commercial work supervised? Because it doesn't say that he can't.
for tradesmen, well, that's a good point.
I don't know why you wouldn't. It's under the requirement of direct supervision.
Right, and just the language is not there. I just want to make sure if we're gonna add the language, either the apprentices should be allowed to work this, within this capacity up to the limited tradesman level. Because if we don't, we're gonna have a bunch of apprentices out there doing commercial work.
Well, and we're gonna have the same situation as we do with the tradesmen on drain cleaning.
Yes,
For commercial.
exactly. Exactly.
So,
But the direct supervision, the definition that we've got in here now applies to everything. All of it, whether it be tradesman, apprentice, or anything else. It's not unlike, as Ron said, back during the freeze, the governor issued that executive order allowing apprentices to go out and make service calls. So it's not unlike that situation, except it's a little bit more stringent because now they're required to have virtual, real-time communication with their supervisors. So this definition of direct supervision applies in all levels, whether it be tradesman or apprentice or whatever.
Not with the way it's written. It's only a sub-paragraph of plumber's apprentice.
It applies to apprentices.
Yes,
So we probably need to look at adding that.
that's my
Tradesman
question.
limited as well.
If we're gonna allow apprentice, is either we limit the apprentice to the limited tradesman level of being able to work this way upon a residential setting. And we take the commercial aspect out of it, or we have to open this up to our limited tradesman plumbers to be virtually supervised on a commercial setting as well. In all fairness, I think.
I see, now I see.
Because the way this is written, a registered apprentice could work this way on a commercial project, but a tradesman limited could not.
I see what you're saying.
And so you actually have somebody with less experience who could be working under virtual
If
supervision.
you're defining direct supervision, and that term shows up throughout the rules, if you just get rid of the words plumber's apprentice, wherever direct supervision pops up, this then would apply to whomever it's talking about.
That's the answer. Don't you feel, Lynn? Rather than trying to list them and add them, take out the plumber's apprentice. So let's make that clarification. And so you know, and the public knows, this rule is not for adoption. It's for proposal into the Texas Register. So people can bitch and complain and give all the comments they want. Once we post it in the Texas Register, and we will certainly take them in consideration. But I think the suggestions that the board has made to remove the plumber apprentice is probably a good one. Don, did you have something?
Mr. Chairman, Bobby Duran has some comments.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take comment at this time on that subject and tell him to hang on to it until we get to the public comment. And again, these will be proposed and posted on the Texas Register. So I had rather have a written formal comments than I had just anecdotal off the cuff comments on it. Because it's really important and we're gonna take it very seriously as the board has. And we've talked about this quite a bit.
Yes, a big one.
All right, moving to A21, the definition for real field representative is amended to make the rules more concise by eliminating an unnecessary reference and correcting a spelling mistake. The definition at A23, defining license, is updated to be more concise. The definition at A25, defining maintenance man or maintenance engineer, is updated to reincorporate long-standing language that was inadvertently repealed in 2017. This definition defines what a work maintenance staff may perform. The definition is amended to show that work incidental to or in connection with maintenance duties does not include cutting into fuel gas plumbing systems and installation of gas fueled water heaters. This language was present for years until July 2017, when the rule was reorganized. Staff discovered this inadvertent deletion during the 4-year rule review, believes it was repealed in error, and wishes to include that longstanding language. The definitions at A36, A39, and A47 are updated to eliminate unnecessary references. Section 361.1B is eliminated as unnecessary and deleted to make the rules more concise. 361.4, language requiring the board to set forth in writing procedures for its operation is not required in statute and is deleted to make the rules more concise. 361.6, renewal fees for med gas, multi-purpose residential fire protection sprinkler specialists, and water supply protection specialist endorsements, and the related renewal fees for such endorsements are eliminated. The board has not been collecting these fees. These rules simply update their current practice. 361.10, based on the recommendation of the Director of Finance, the historically underutilized business or hub rule is amended to incorporate the rules of the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts, not the Texas Facilities Commission. 361.12, rule provisions not required in statute for advisory boards are eliminated to make the rule more concise. The board currently has no advisory boards. And lastly, 361.15, rule language about when the board will elect a secretary is eliminated as they are outdated and unnecessary. The board action requested is a possible motion to recommend for publication the proposed rule at Texas, 22 Texas Administrative Code, section 361.1.4.6.10.12.15 in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment.
With the recommended adjustment that were made during the discussion to remove plumber's apprentice
Yes, sir.
from the language. You know, one last final comment about this direct supervision business. We, as an industry, are gonna have to come into the 21st century with everyone else. And today you can do continuing education online. You can do supervision online. You can get a doctor's prescription online. There are a lot of things that you can do virtually today. And we're gonna move forward on this issue. And again, we're open to comments. There's some people that are gonna like it. There's some people that are not gonna like it. But until we try it, we're not gonna know if it's gonna work or not. And if we have to tighten it up at some point down the future to close some loopholes that are creating some problems for Steve and his enforcement people, I think we should be willing to do that also. But until we start with it, we're not really gonna know. But I will tell you this, when we had the freeze and we had this in place for, I guess, a month or two, allowing apprentices to be on trucks, didn't have one complaint of inferior work or a plumber sending somebody that wasn't qualified to do it. So I am cautiously optimistic it's gonna work, and I understand it's gonna be a struggle for some who've been in the industry for years and years and years to get their arms around this. It doesn't mean you have to. There are companies out there that are still gonna send a journeyman with an apprentice until such time that apprentice has got the requisite skills. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but it's a tool that's available out there. So 30 days to get your comments in. So and be sure that when we do post this, that you make your comments in writing and do it the right way. Don't mention it to Lisa when you're on the phone with her and consider that a comment. Actually put it in writing so that the board can see it and take it into consideration. And I will promise you that certainly I will, and I think I can speak to the rest of the board. We read every single comment that's made on items that are posted on the public agenda, take them into consideration before we take final action. So you're going to get a bite or two out of the apple on this.
Can I get a motion for consideration?
Ainsworth, so moved.
Motion from Mr. Ainsworth, second.
Second, Bill.
Second by Bill Stout.
Can I get you to just say the motion?
You want me to state it?
Would you please? And if you look in your documents, you'll see a proposed motion.
All right, James Ainsworth, the motion to recommend for publication proposed rules at 22 Texas Administrative Code 361.1.4.6.10.12.15 in the Texas Register for 30 days of public.
With
amendments.
the
With
amendment.
amendment.
Amendments to, what was that?
Direct supervision.
Direct supervision in A18.
And I'll still second.
All right. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have a error in my motion because I didn't get A18.
Yeah.
So let's do that again. We need the motion to say 361.1,
let's just,
I'm
let's
so
do
sorry,
it.
I'm sorry, we do have it, A18 is under 361.1, the
Yes.
motion is fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Vote.
Yes,
So,
we did.
okay, thank you.
Move on to number 9.
All right, number 9.
And board, keep in mind on this section, we've already posted these in the Texas Register. We've had the 30-day comment period. They're coming back to us now for the final adoption. So this one is the last line out of the end. This actually puts it in place, so. Lynn, go ahead, number 10.
Thank you. This is agenda item number 10, tab number 5. And this is the discussion and possible action to adopt the proposed rule amendments and repeals at 22 Texas Administrative Code sections 363.2, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.8, 0.10, 0.11, 0.12, 0.13, 0.14, 0.15, 0.16, 0.17, 0.18, 0.19, 0.24, 0.25, 0.27, and the repeal of rules at 363.3 and 363.26. Proposed rules update the current rules to be consistent with the changes originating from House Bill 636. The amendments also reflect the efforts by the rules work group. The proposed rules additionally reflect the efforts to simplify the rules by stripping out unnecessary language and internal references. This allows rules to stay current regardless of changes to the reference law and rules. This was published in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment. No comment was received.
Lynn, let me interject here. You'll notice that 363.9 is not included in this. And that has to do with MedGas proposal that we've done earlier. And we're going to defer that as a separate discussion. That's item number 13 on your agenda. We'll take that one up separately because it's important. Not that they're not all important, but that particular one we did have some comment and concern about. So that one's being held out of this particular section. Go ahead, Lynn.
The board's action is being, the staff asked the boards to consider a motion to recommend for adoption the proposed rule at 22 Texas Administrative Code sections 363.2, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.8, 0.10, 0.11, 0.12, 0.13, 0.14, 0.15, 0.16, 0.17, 0.18, 0.19, 0.24, 0.25, 0.27, and the repeal of rules at 363.3.
Justin, I make a motion to that effect.
Read it.
Do I have to read the whole?
Would you?
Make a motion to recommend for adoption the proposed rules at 22 of the Texas Administrative Code 363.2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 24, 25, and 27, as well as the repeal of rules at 363.3 and 0.26.
Motion, is there a second?
Milton, second.
Milton, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you. And can I have a motion for the chairman to sign on behalf of the board any orders that are actions that we take today? This is a motion for adoption, but we will have a underlying order adopting these rules.
So moved.
Darren Black moves, there's a second.
Thank you.
Second.
Justin for seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right, now we're moving to agenda item number 11, tab number 6. And this is the adoption of the proposed rule amendments at 22 Texas Administrative Code sections 367.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 0.11, 0.12, 0.14, 0.15, 0.16, 0.17, 0.18, 0.19, 0.20, 0.21 as a result of statutory changes made by House Bill 636, recommendations made by the work group, and on board direction to simplify the existing rules. The rules were published in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment. No comment was received. As a result, staff is requesting the board to make a motion to adopt the proposed rules at 22 Texas Administrative Code sections 367.1.2.3.4.5.6.7.
Let the board member just make the motion. You'll find it on the last page there, if there is a motion, if one of the board members will read that.
Baron Black. Motion to adopt proposed rule amendments 22 Texas Code Administrative Code 367.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Motion, is there a second?
James Ainsworth, second.
Mr. Ainsworth, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Now we are at tab number 7, agenda item number 12. This is discussion and possible action for the readoption of the rules at 22 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 365, in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 2001.39. Under the Government Code, a state agency is required to review every 4 years its rules to determine if the reasons for the rules continues to exist. Each rule is reviewed to determine if it is obsolete, if it reflects current legal and policy considerations, and if it reflects the current procedures of the board. A notice of intent to review Chapter 365 was published in the Texas Register for 30 days of public comment. No comment was received. The review completed included looking at each of the rules in 365, and that review determined that the need for the rules continue to exist. The rules are still essential for the implementation of the coming license law. The rules provide details that are not found in statute but are necessary for the operation and functions of the board. Staff recommends readopting the rules in Chapter 365, and that motion would include the readoption of 365, the rules of 365 in their entirety and in their current form, and would conclude the rule review of 365 in accordance with Texas Government Code 2001.39.
This is a mere formality. We're required every 4 years, as you all remember, to look at all of our rules to make sure that they're still applicable. And this is basically formally saying that, yes, we've done that on 365 and we think they're applicable. So if appropriate, if someone would read the recommended language.
Dave Yelovich, I propose that the board readopts the rules in Chapter 365 in their entirety and in their current form, and concludes it rule review of Chapter 365 in accordance with Texas Government Code 2001.039.
What we're basically doing, we're getting credit for two things. Number one, we modified a lot of things and made some updates to it, but we're also getting credit for the quadcentennial rule review by passing this motion. So
I second.
second,
Yes.
all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right. Now we'll move to tab 8, agenda item number 13. This is the discussion and possible action to adopt the rule proposal at 363.9 regarding candidate qualification for lead gas piping installation endorsement. The proposed rule amendment expands qualification opportunities to potential med gas endorsees by allowing a certification in medical gas from ASSE to qualify them for endorsement. The rule was posted in the Texas Register for 30 days of comment. 2 comments were received. The first comment from the Association of Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors of Texas asked for more time to consider the rule. Their comments indicate concern over the ASSE 6010 certification being allowed to qualify a candidate and the appropriateness given the license class of the applicant, be it a journeyman or a master plumber. The comment seems to anticipate the expansion of the scope of the medical gas endorsement issued by the board to include design, designation, and operation of a medical gas system. Comment 2, the second commenter, Joseph Cooper, advocates to designate the ASSE 6010 as the appropriate certification for installation qualification, to raise any course classroom hours from 24 to 32, consistent with the latest edition of the ASSE 6050, and 3, require that the 4 hours of raising instruction currently required be done at a facility with enhanced grazing capacity. Staff provides a response, the comments provided are valuable. Some of the commentary provided exceeds the scope of the proposed rule, which is only on candidate qualification, and it may be considered at the future rule considerations. It's appropriate to consider at this time comment relevant to the posted rule, which is simply on candidate qualification. The comment from PHCC speaks to the design and installation of a medical gas system, as well as addresses the training of different license classes. To clarify, section 1301.356 of the PLL clearly states that a med gas endorsement issued by the board only allows an endorsement holder the authority to install med gas pipe, not design a med gas system regardless of the license. Both commenters provide valuable insight into the designation of the ASSE 6010 as the appropriate ASSE certification for med gas installation. As a result, staff recommends amending the rule proposal to specify that the 6010 is the appropriate certification for expanding this qualifying opportunity. As to the recommendation to increase the hours of course instruction from 24 to 32 and enhancing the instructor grazing facility capabilities, staff offers that this exceeds the scope of the rule as proposed. Such comments would be more relevant to consider in subsequent rule amendments to qualify medical gas courses themselves or instructor qualification. The board can choose to respond however they want. The choices before the board at this time are to either adopt the rule as it was originally proposed, to amend the rule to the rule proposal to include new language specifying the 6010 and potentially repost the Texas Register for another 30 days of public comment, or you can pass on the rule completely. I will let you know that this rule proposal was filed in July at the Texas Register. You have to act on the rule proposal in 6 months, otherwise it expires. So this rule will expire in February. You're always welcome to do anything you want after that, but if you want to work on this one, you have to do it by February.
You know, let me make a comment before you do. My recommendation to, although we have 3 options, we can adopt the former language or we can modify it. Because of the concern and I'm going to call it confusion. My recommendation is that we adopt the language that Lynn has added to this to clarify, and that we repost this for the 30-day period. So we just propose it, repost it, give everyone an opportunity to comment again if need be. But it seems like everyone is making this much more complicated than it actually is. Basically, we're just saying if you pass the national med gas test, the 6010, you can get a license in Texas. The only difference between, it's my understanding, the only difference between the med gas 6010, the national standard, and the Texas med gas requirement is that they require 32 hours of education. Ours is 24 hours. They have continuity requirements, and we don't enforce continuity requirements. I'm going to tell you the long game for me is to equalize them. It's not during this rule, and that's one of the comments talked about the 34, the 22. That is very appropriate, but it's not appropriate for this particular time. At some point in time this year, I would like to see us move our med gas standards identical to that of the national standard. If we would up the number of hours from 24 to 32, that we would put in the continuity requirement that's required of the national standard. We've got a new testing center up there that's going to be fully capable of doing all the continuity tests that anybody could ever want, and then we start doing that. But for this particular proposal that I would recommend that you do, strictly says if you pass the 6010 on a national standard and pass the test, that will issue you a license without requiring retesting. That's all this does. It doesn't expand it. It doesn't do anything else. And some reason or another, everybody doesn't want me to say this, but it basically exempts them from taking this Texas test where they've already taken another test. So,
And if I can segue off of that and point to another document in your materials, you're going to see a document with with the heading amended rule proposal. And you're going to see a suggested amended proposal from staff, which includes the higher level of specificity, designating the 6010 as the appropriate certification from ASSE.
It's the last page under that section. If you want to see it, it basically adds the language. R may demonstrate the successful completion of professional qualification standard for medical gas system personnel series 6000 standard 6010 or latest edition recognized by the American Society of Sanitation Engineers. So basically it just says if you pass the national test based upon this, then you can be issued a license without being required to take a test. It doesn't expand it, doesn't do anything else. That's all it does. But even with that being said, my recommendation is that we repost it again to give people plenty of opportunity. Yes, Mr. John.
Mr. Chairman, I'm inclined to agree with you. My only question for Lynn, which I think is probably implied, but if we repost it for another 30 days, does that reset the 6-month clock so that we
It
can
does.
take this up again, say
does.
March? And
It does.
okay, perfect.
And I think we should, because the fact that, you know, we posted a whole section of 365 and these one comment. We posted this one thing and we got a couple of comments and several phone calls. So I want everyone to be clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it. When we get ready to up the hours from 24 to 32 and require continuity testing, trust me, you're gonna know it. And we'll do it, and we'll do it in the
So
open.
as a further clarification, this is saying that 6010 already exceeds our standards.
It does.
So they're qualified, and which makes perfect sense, but I agree that we should repost it.
Okay, so I need a motion that the modified language found on the last page of this section be posted in the Texas Register for a period of 30 days. For public comment.
So moved. Darren Black.
Motion from Darren Black,
Second.
who, by the way, is our only med gas endorsement holder on the board. He's been there and done that. Second by Trustee McDonald. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right. well,
Does that get you through yours?
I think we are through. So, y'all can go to lunch now.
Just, again, I want to give you the board and the public the long game on this med gas thing. Just like we have reciprocity agreements with other states, I would hope that we can get some type of arrangement with the national standard that when somebody completes our program, it's substantially equivalent to what they do. So other states should be recognizing Texas just like this international program. It's going to be difficult because it's a matter of money. They don't want to share that responsibility. But even with that being said, my goal is for our Texas training program to obtain med gas, whether we get it or not, should be equivalent and identical to that national standard. We should accept nothing less. So long game, that's probably what we're going to do. But for the meantime, if they pass that national test, come in and we'll issue you. Now, something that was brought up, and I'm sorry to go back on this, but it is really important. Darren brought this up to me and I failed to mention it. You gotta have a Texas license in order to get a Texas med gas. So you can't walk in here with a license from Michigan and think you're gonna get a Texas med gas and go to work. You gotta get your master or journeyman license in Texas first.
100%. That's possibly.
Or have a reciprocity agreement with one of the states that we have an arrangement with. But there seemed to be some confusion that, well, somebody from another state can come in and just go to work in Texas, and that is absolutely not the case. That does not change the standard. They have to have a Texas master or journeyman license, and I think we added that in. Did that make it to the?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it's about 4 minutes to 12. How about let's take 45 minutes and come back at 12:45 and pick up Lisa's report at that time. Be in recess for 12:45. or excuse me, at 12:47, let's call the meeting back to order. I think where we left off, we're gonna turn it over to Lisa. Give her staff report. So Lisa, all yours.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Lisa Hill, Executive Director. I feel like I'm being arrested, Kevin. As I mentioned earlier, we have a new examiner. Today is his second day. Right. And it is Ben Gonzalez, and this is Ben. Everybody take a good look at him. Oh, yeah.
Ben, personally, during the break, met all the board members personally, so
Good.
we already got him on a first name basis.
And he doesn't realize what a extensive search we did to find just the right person. It's no small feat, let me tell you. And so this is what we came up with, so we're expecting a whole bunch out of him. How's that refreshing?
This agency rises or falls based upon the success of our Waco facility up there, so don't feel any pressure. No pressure.
I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank everybody, but especially the staff here at the office. Man, they've been great. I've been here 2 days and they made me feel at home and really excited to be here and do my best not to let y'all down.
Well, they're just wear off pretty quick.
Yeah, just wait, you've been here a week.
Been great to have you, all kidding aside, we laugh about it, but it is a real key spot that we really need to fill, and we're thrilled to have you. So,
Thank you, so appreciate it.
yes, sir.
And we do have some other changes that will be occurring in personnel. And we're currently right on the cusp of hiring a new receptionist. So next board meeting, hopefully I have good news on that. We still have a posting out there for an examiner for here in Austin. So we'll see how all that goes. Lot of work still to do. And I want to say, last board meeting, I introduced you to Mason, our newest field investigator, and Mason took and passed the master exam, so kudos to Mason for that. He did well. And so we've got a lot of things going on. Staff's been busy. And we also have two people departing, which is Kenny Mott in Fort Worth and Richard Herman, who's been here back and forth 3 or 4 times. And I think he's actually leaving me this time. So got a lot of big changes coming up.
You know, we all hate to see Kenny go. He has been a key player for the agency for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I want to tell you how much I personally appreciate Richard and the time that he spent. When I first came to this agency 2 years ago this month, Richard was trying to leave. And I begged and pleaded and cried and asked him to stay to help us out. And here he is 2 years later and he's just now leaving. But he's been a key part and a key player in the success of this agency for a long time. And we really wish him well in everything that he does, so.
A whole lot going on. And of course, Ken has gotten the chair pretty warm now that he's here, so, and gotten to know us well, so we're comfortable with that. And it may be a little bit before we fill some of these other positions. We'll see how everything goes, but we're always excited to have new people and sad whenever we lose someone too, but we wish them all the best, so. I did want to talk about, oh, I know somebody I forgot here, not forgotten, but Rosa and Gloria have gotten quite a few good kudos lately, and especially during Christmas. And so that's their licensing department, and Gloria keeps all of that running. And as most everyone knows, we had an issue with her plastic license cards. That issue is over and done with, and they all, Liddy and Carolina and everybody in here worked tirelessly to get those printed, caught up and out, so.
It was like 22,600 and something cards went out in a period of a couple of days.
Yep. Yep, so, everybody should have one, check your mailbox. The other item I want to touch base on is, continuing education program. And, there's just all kinds of things going on and things that we've been working on for a couple of years to get in place. Which involve the computer system, the providers, new programs and that sort of thing. And we're still, depending upon how, all this money shakes out, and how we stretch our pennies, hope to have some kind of, gathering with the providers and at a minimum, all the providers and any new providers that are wanting to come in. Maybe have some kind of group thing on that, in the near future, let's put it that way. So we're looking forward to that. And one other little reminder, and I'll do this reminder down here. The mobile testing unit, I wanted to say that's still on track. They're settling out some contract issues on that. Neil's gonna be working here the next couple of weeks, he and I. But then after that, then I'm gonna be back up and I'll be in Waco a little bit and we're gonna do some work with the TSBPE people on design aspects and, so we're really excited about it. It's slow go with as many things as we have, on the plate right now, but it's there and I still have the vision and I know Frank does too.
What I hope to happen, Lisa and I have talked about this. I hope to have that mobile testing unit up and going in a matter of months. Because, the truck is already there and the trailer is already there. It's already got the expandable sides. It's just a matter of us designing the interior of it and equipping it. And what I would like to do, and Lisa and I have talked about this, the first stop for that mobile unit, I'd like for it to be the parking lot of the legislature. And have an open house, and let all the legislators and the staff come out and check out our mobile testing unit. And show them exactly what it is that we do when we test someone. So if we can get it done before the legislature adjourns, no pressure. It's the end of May. It's at the end of May. And wouldn't that be a great thing to have it sitting on the front step of the Capitol where all the legislators and their staff can come out and tour it?
It would be, I can see it, have the vision.
So there's gonna be a lot of paperwork.
Big signs, State Board of Plumbing exams, TSTC. And I tell you, once I mentioned the Mike research that we're gonna do and the TSTC is gonna have a billboard on the Capitol, I bet you it's gonna happen, Lisa.
I think a lot of their part they can make happen pretty quick.
I'll mention that to
I
him
mean,
pretty
the
quick.
skill is there and the workings of the contract and there's just some other legalities to work out, stuff like that, but it's gonna happen. Updates to our website. Kevin, of course, is responsible for those. And, if anybody has something that they would like to see on the website that's not up there, please let us know. We're working right now on some accessibility issues and, disability interacting features that we've got to do. And so that's kind of on Kevin's plate right now, in addition to updating the theme of our website. And we just looked at the, I think it was a link to the board meeting. And as a reminder, make sure you always use that refresh button up there so that you get the latest content that we've just put on the website. So I think you just made an adjustment long ago. We still hope to have an interactive assist a plumber, so to speak, Zoom meeting, and we'll see if we can get all that in the works. So we just got a whole lot of stuff going on. So that's gonna be more like administrative support, and it'll help them with the online program and making applications and that sort of thing. We, as Mr. Denton alluded to earlier, we've got a lot of new forms out there. We've got a reciprocity form, we've got a waiver form. As we get those developed, be sure that you check the website under the forms tab. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, each one that's updated, you've been bolding them, right?
Actually, bold are the most popular ones.
Okay, the most popular ones are the bolded ones. And then as you open them up, you'll see they have a newer date on them. So there's a lot of new forms out there. Some clarifications, made them easier. There's like a little guidance section with them. So, and it just makes them flow through here much more easily when they choose to do paper. Of course, the best thing is to always go online when you can. We've got quite a few, and under, let me back up, under CE too, in the providers. We've got quite a few documents, and we'll try to put all these different documents from the board meeting out on the CE provider Google link tomorrow too, Dawn. And I apologize, but I might become a little hoarse here. We'll see how long I can go. I also wanted to bring to your attention the current statistics on the plumber licenses and the registrations. And you have the chart in there, which ends at the end of the first quarter of 23, which would have been the last day in November, and you'll see that number in there. We also went ahead and ran the live numbers, which are on the, and they're broken out into type, number of licensees, the RMPs, the endorsements, and MedGas. And MedGas has gone up a little bit, and that's a good thing. And one of the other most significant numbers, as well, is the inspectors have increased just a little bit. And I think right now, that's the most inspectors we've had in quite a while, 1686, and those are current and renewable, but I'm gonna tell you, the majority of those inspectors are current. There's only a small portion of our inspectors that haven't picked it up, and we've reached out to some and said, hey, you know, we've made all these changes, we've got to have fingerprints. We've moved these renewal dates, we haven't heard from you. Just trying to get that last little bit of them out there, brought back into the fold, and or to find out if they're no longer working where they said they were, then they'll become unaffiliated on our website. And you'll notice too, that our responsible master plumbers, 8,380, and that number actually represents the number of plumbing companies that you have out there. That's the largest number of plumbing companies we've had. For a long time, we sat around 7,500, then we sat around 76, and so that's significant. And bear in mind, out of those 8,380 RMPs, they all have to have certificates of insurance. And that's one of the things that we provide. We will put them into their account and publicly show them. If they get them to us in time, we can get them out there before they expire. But it's no small job just to keep those going. We get about 30 to 40 certificates of insurance that need to be updated or changed today. So a lot of paper. But good numbers, everyone's doing well. And we hope it continues that way. And I want to say this about the renewals of plumbers. You know, with all these changes to continuing education and the changes in renewal dates and this, that, and the other, the one thing that's easy to remember now, there is no 23, 24 CE, 21, 22 CE. There is none of that split thing. It's 12 months, it's 12 calendar months. And all you got to do to figure out what continuing education you need is to look at your expiration date. So if you have a license card, who's got their card in their pocket? Get yours out, Josh. 1023. Okay, 1023. So in Josh's case, we're gonna put him on the spot here. He needs to have his continuing education, his 2023 continuing education done before October 31st. So if you look on your license card, whatever year your card expires, That's the continuing education that you need. And you'll notice, you'll start seeing some that may look a little strange or have been manipulated or might have two in the same year. And some of those are ones that we've had to push through and or adjust to get everybody lined up. And Mr. Mata,
423.
okay, we're gonna be watching for yours.
I'm 228.
Okay.
I'm going to Con Ed tomorrow.
Next week.
We actually have, Mr. Ainsworth on our wall in there, so. we're watching. So it's gonna be easier, there's still gonna be some adjustment, and there's still gonna be a few people that get caught in a snag somewhere. But we had a good long meeting with our CPE, support staff through our program last week. And we implemented some other changes in there, so it's real exciting, and you should see your stuff on the website, and you can see when you took your class on the website, and there really shouldn't be a question. Right?
Lisa, are the endorsements updated now on the website?
The endorsements are updated with the license card each year.
Okay.
And on the, for instance, the med gas is the only endorsement on a plumbing license that requires continuing education.
Right.
So you're still responsible for getting your current continuing education for any endorsement that you have. But the date that that endorsement expires no longer exists because it rolls with the license itself.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but you may need continuing education for it at a different time than the continuing education that you need for your license card.
Right.
But if you look on the website and see what's the last one you took, you know you need the next one.
And we're gonna have the ability on those that are holding a med 3 years out to make a determination if during that 3-year period of time, they have got the required CEs.
And we've got that right now. We actually have a list
That's asked a lot at town hall meetings. Does that mean we have to take it every year now? And that has not changed. The med gas is still every 3 years.
Yeah.
And we'll have the ability when yours expires to know whether you took the required hours during that 3-year period of time.
Yeah.
And you will too. Go to the website. You can see what you took too.
Yeah, they just need to look at the website, then focus on getting the license renewed, and then ensure that any endorsements that they have, that they're current and have the proper education to hold that endorsement, because right now, we've been working on a list and doing some outreach to people and saying, hey, you're a little behind, and we're doing this transition period, and so now's the time for you to catch up on your continuing education for med gas.
The other thing that we hear a lot, I looked on my website and my endorsement didn't show what date. Not realizing that your endorsement is the same as your license type now, it expires at the same time. Everyone has been accustomed to having 2 different expiration dates, and that's no longer.
No longer exists. It's really about when you took your continuing education for the endorsement itself. The other item that I have for everyone is an updated examination statistics. I'm sorry, I'm going down to the next item if you don't mind.
That's tab 10.
Yeah, I'll keep going to tab 10. Oh, wait a minute, let me back up. I apologize. H, I didn't get H, and that's a big one. Under tab 9, which is.
It sure is.
Yeah, I missed that one, which is the discussion of the continuing education program and training for apprentices. Almost, all of the adjustments and makeup within our system are in there. Continuing education providers, when they log in, I think you got all of the classes in, and James says they're working now, right? When you log into your continuing education program, and Suze might be able to tell us, you should be able to see that apprentice credit and dual credit.
It was not there this morning.
Okay, it probably will be there in the next few days, and you'll see, have y'all seen it yet in yours? Whoever logs in.
No,
You
you
would-
bet.
you-
I reported 2 correspondence this morning
Yeah.
and the 24 med gas is on the first thing that comes up, so
Is
those
it?
aren't there
Okay.
yet.
You're about to start seeing that, and so you'll have the ability to click on apprentice CE. And when I say apprentice CE, the apprentice CE is the new class we've been talking about for a couple of years, and I have 3 providers that have submitted materials for their new classes. And it's specific for an apprentice that holds an endorsement. I'm not saying that the apprentice that's just an apprentice has to have this class. It's for the apprentice that wants to get an endorsement. And bear in mind that the apprentices that want to get endorsements, they've previously been submitting a training affidavit. And there's samples of those in your board packet, they're out on the website. And that training affidavit comes in here to us, we grade it, we scan it, we give them credit for it. For a short period of time, you'll notice that the update on the apprentice registrations, additional registrations, the drain cleaner restricted, and RUI. They'll have the option to do the paper training affidavit and or to go ahead and take the apprentice training CE, 6-hour class. Like I said, 3 providers have introduced materials on it. I expect the rest of the providers are gonna have theirs up and running pretty soon. And the easiest way to me, guide to build that class is to look at the rule, the guidelines for any kind of training material or in the rules. And then to go out on our website and look at the type of things that we were questioning the apprentice on using the affidavit. Rules, scope of work, what they can do, how to do it, that sort of thing. It's almost, it's a guide. You can just almost take it and develop a program that easy. So we'll see how that all comes about. I don't have a start date on it yet. I do know some people are ready to go on it, but there'll be a period of time where eventually we remove that affidavit training and they'll just take the 6-hour apprentice CE training program. And they'll get credit for it as a CE and as a training, and they'll use it towards licensure or an RUI or whatever that is. So it's coming together, the parts and pieces are coming together. And people are developing their programs. So we'll see how it all comes out. The other item, which moving on to the next tab, the other item is you have your pending plumber exams and retakes, this chart, and I will put this chart out for providers as well. It's got the yellow highlight up at the top. Those are all the individuals that are scheduled. Pearson, Austin, Waco, everything that's happening right now. So there's 674 people that are scheduled to take a variety of exams. Now, a portion of those are individuals that are retakes, 24.6% of them. There's still a plumber, maybe they gotta try twice to get it done, who knows? We'll see.
The record holder is the 13th time for one person.
That's on the journeyman, I believe.
Master.
Maybe it's master, but no, this one's master, yeah. Yeah, I think the journeyman might even be a little higher than that one.
Would that be somebody I know?
You told me I couldn't say that.
Okay, well, I don't want you to say it. I'm just asking you for no question.
You might know.
Okay.
But you know what? The key is to not give up.
They obviously aren't giving up.
Yeah, they're not giving up. And as far as the individuals
I'd be
that are,
tempted to become an electrician
or a roofer,
or a roofer, yeah.
I usually recommend roofing, so.
But that's okay. You know what? Everybody didn't pass it the first time.
No,
They don't pass
they
it the
don't.
first time, sign up and do it again.
They don't. And that's,
Lawyers don't pass the LSAT the first time sometimes too. That doesn't mean they're not good lawyers.
that's true.
Almost nobody passes the CPA exam the first time.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I do want to remind everybody, you've got the retakes at Pearson View. The attempts that a person gets authorized 4 to 5 times. So if you don't make that computer-based test the first time, you don't have to come back through us. You just go back through Pearson. Of course, you're gonna pay again, but you can sign, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you can sign right back up and keep going 5 times. And, in most cases, people get it on the 3rd time if they struggle at all, so. It's working. The other thing I wanted to say is the number of paper applications that we have right now, very, very small. Their process, if you sent something in paper, and this is as of, I'm gonna say a week ago, so it's a week old, whenever we finally counted everything. I can't stop recounting every single day, but if you sent something in on paper, there's a good chance that it has been processed or it is processing right now. There's currently the oldest thing that we even have online that hasn't been processed is right at the 1st of January. So there's very few applications that are not.
Give an application to take a test, either
Yeah.
written or
Yeah.
practical or.
Yeah. Anything.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, that's eliminated the backlog in my mind. You've done
Very-
exactly what we've been talking about for 2 years. If the oldest one is in January, that's a win in my book.
Yeah.
I don't know how everybody else sees it, but that's a hell of a long way from 1,200 people that we were reportedly 2 or 3 years ago claiming we're waiting to take a test. So congratulations.
Thank you. Excellent. I'm gonna say that at some point, and it's happening right now, there are people that send in their master application and then they call and they either call right after they get their date or right before we even get it processed and say, oh, by the way, don't schedule me too soon because I'm really not ready. I just want to get in line. Don't send it in here if you don't want to get it processed.
There's no longer a waiting list,
Yeah.
is what we're saying. So until you're ready to go to work,
Yeah.
don't send it in. And I think what Lisa is saying, that there's not to say there are not those out there who have not heard from us.
Absolutely.
Because if you have submitted something incomplete, whether it was the 1st of January or whether it was back in November or September of last year, if it's incomplete, it's still pending out there. And all you have to do is go to your personal account and you can find out exactly what you're missing. It's either fingerprints or it's paying your money or something. So if you haven't heard from us and you've got a pending application, you better go to work because there's something is missing in your application.
And if you haven't heard from us, go look yourself up on the website. Because if you go look yourself up on the website and you don't see your fingerprint obligation met, or you don't see your training, and your apprentice is not current or journeyman's not current or something, there's something wrong. And that's what needs to be addressed. And there is a little deficiency in them being able to see everything that we want them to see in their account right now, but they're working on that. But you can tell right where you're at on that website.
Lisa, let me ask you a question, and we've talked about this, and I'm sorry if you've already told me one other time before. We were working on a system that would not allow them to submit an incomplete application. Has that been
Yeah.
accomplished?
Yeah.
So today, if I try to send something in and I don't have my fingerprints, it's not gonna let me send it in.
It's gonna let you do it with fingerprints. It's not gonna let you pay if you're missing any of the training hours, or what's the other item, Dawn, that we took the hold on it? Can't remember now. Or CE, it's still, in case of a renewal. But if you don't have your required documents and training, it's not gonna even let you pay for
See,
it.
that's the way it should be, and that's not always the way.
It was not always the case, but it is in the
It is.
latest update. Almost all the holes are built in now.
Okay.
But the little, account email inbox is still not working the way that they want it to, and that's what we're really excited about. But they're still working on that. That's part of our shared program, so we'll be able to put little messages in there for them to see, and they won't even have to dig around for it. They'll see it right there, and they'll click on it and know that there's something in their inbox that we want to tell them, but it's coming. Main thing is look yourself up online and do yourself a favor, really. Don't even submit your application until you see your fingerprints processed. Don't even submit your application until you see, all of your education and training in there. Because as I said before, if you send in little bits and pieces, each time we pick it up and put a little bit or a piece on there, then it goes back to the end of the line until the next time you send that little piece in. So you're not gaining. It's much faster if you just do it all at one time. So, and the providers have been doing a really good job of letting us know whenever, people have problems with their names, things like that, that we need to fix, and we appreciate all of that help, because we can't get it all done, without their help, so a lot of stuff going on. Any questions of me? Oh, let me back up. I was gonna say, you'll notice too, that there's a lot of people already scheduled. And, bear in mind, they're scheduled out through the, end of, or first week of April. So of all different kinds of exams. So, and sitting right now, the remainder that need to be scheduled, there's 42 masters. And we're probably gonna take those 42 masters and maybe do another big day in Waco. We're trying to, bear in mind, we're a little shy of examiners still, to stretch it all out between two places. And Ben, he wants to learn it. It's gonna take us a little while to teach it to him, so. We're not just gonna throw him out there wild, but we've got 42 masters and we've got 22 journeymen and 24 tradesmen that still need to be scheduled right now. So that's just not a whole. But
Lisa, I ask you this every week, so let this be the time I ask you this week. When is our master gonna be online for Pearson View?
and I said earlier that Neil and I were gonna be working on it in the next couple of weeks. I don't wanna lie, or stretch the truth, I should say. And I really wanted to be further along on it on January than I am. But I'm gonna say, by March, we'll probably have a good test and a test.
Oh, I think you can be better than that.
Well, I'm not gonna, it all depends.
I think you're giving yourself plenty of time.
I know, there's a lot of parts to make this thing move,
It is,
but
but I'm gonna tell you, once you get that done,
life will be
it will be
wonderful.
so easy peasy.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, those masters, it's just a written exam, there's no practical.
we can't wait, but
If we need to
It's a
dedicate some more
lot to-
resources to it to speed that up, it will sure make your life easier in the long run, so. I know Neil's working on it, you're working on it.
yeah, and I haven't been able to focus on it as much because we've had so many other things in here internally. And so we've had this.
You pretty well fixed everything else, it's just time to get on with the master program now.
That's true. I don't have, let me rephrase that. I don't have anything else to do.
That's right.
But we do want it. Can you imagine how wonderful life will be?
I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be really smooth sailing when you get 100% of all the tests on the Pearson View program.
And you know what will really be nice, and it probably won't be until the next year, is when we're to a point to where we can utilize the scheduling system.
Absolutely, I'm gonna say.
Even for our practical stuff. Now, that's another whole part of the program and making it work with.
The next step.
But
Yeah.
it's there. It's just right there and we can see it.
Eventually Pearson View will not only give the written exam, but before you leave, you'll probably be able to schedule your practical right there before you leave.
Yeah, we're actually gonna use their module and, we'll still be handling all the money, but, we're gonna use their scheduling module and we'll just be loading it up once a week and say, oh, we've got room for,
22 tests.
Yeah,
Waco.
22 of this and 10 of those, so take your pick. And I would be remiss if I didn't go back and mention this too, is that, David Alex Wark, son of Jay Wark, who was a continuing education provider, passed away earlier this month. And, just remember him, he, had a pretty good following and he passed away during the midst of a training class and some CE going. So we worked with his family to ensure that the people that needed credit got it and that sort of thing. So, Jay and his family had a pretty tough time of it. So I wanted to mention that. And I want to make sure I didn't leave anything out.
Just one comment, Lisa. Thank you for sharing this page of the age demographics of our licensees. That's very interesting.
Which one's that?
The age demographics.
demographic.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
It would,
I apologize.
it actually, to me, the numbers look better than what I anticipated, where I've heard where the average age of a master's 59 years old or 60 years old, and I see down here and the median age is at 56, 53. That's a little better.
Yeah, it is.
And,
It's a hair better.
yeah,
But you know what? That's an upgraded number too. That 59-year-old was probably a 2 or 3 year old number. And so this includes the new masters that have been pushed through this year and last year.
Yeah, this is the very,
that was me a few years
Yeah.
ago.
yeah, we just got all this data and I'm gonna put it out for the CPE providers too, because, and I took the names off up here because you can't tie a name to a birth date. But I'm gonna tell you, and I know I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but Mr. Porter's still our oldest journeyman that's renewed and current. So, Mr. Porter, if you're listening, happy birthday and happy plumbing. It's still at the top of our list.
Cool.
So,
It's interesting, if you look at the bottom of that, the oldest apprentice, 91 years old.
Excuse the numbers.
it does, but what that is someone's father that gets out there and goes every day, goes out on the job site and wants to remain part of the business and part of the industry.
That's cool.
And the youngest apprentice is just barely over
Just barely.
16.
Yeah. And we actually have a couple of other apprentices that are working directly with a family member, which that has to do with labor laws. We can't issue till they're 16, but their credit hours can be given to them prior to 16 if they were working with a family member. After 14. So there's all these little things that go along with it. So there's a couple of other ones that may have some credit and they may appear a little bit younger than the average, but it could have been that they came up in a plumbing family too.
And I assume that 19-and-a-half-year-old youngest tradesman should start coming down a little bit as the high school program gets rolled out.
Probably will.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to watch that. Just think about.
I mean, ideally that'll get closer to 18.
Yeah. I'll put this out to the providers as well, and it's interesting material, and I think we talked about it a little bit, and then I ran that and I put it in there, and thank you for
Thank
reminding
you
me.
for
I
sharing.
forgot I put it in there.
It's interesting to look at.
Yeah.
There.
Lisa, I'm curious about one other thing, on the inspectors that have been testing, obviously there's significant increase there. Is there a contributing factor to that we're aware of, or are we just not aware why that number increased 30%?
The inspectors, all the cities have had jobs posted and that sort of thing. And if Norma was here, she'd even tell you that she's got 2 new inspectors and they've got so much work going on that, they're making the job more attractive to get enough in the money. And a lot of them are starting to beat us out. I know that. And of course, we get in a position later on with some equity type money or funding. We're gonna have to try to push our investigators and examiners up again a little bit to compete with them, but the cities are so busy right now, they're just begging for inspectors.
So it's like, it's municipal.
I think it is.
It's probably demand more than it is anything.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And, you know, some of them leave and come back.
Well, it's just good to see that because of the enforcement aspect of, if we're gaining inspectors, obviously, we're gaining some enforcement.
We hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, we hope so.
Lisa, on the inspector note of the 1686 that we got on this,
Mhm.
is there a generally, do we have like a chart or a plot map? Are they all generally centered around the big cities?
They're pretty well spread out. I mean, obviously, the bigger the city is, the more projects and the more inspectors they're gonna have. I think any of the cities probably tell you if they had 3, they wish they had 6. You know, if they got 12, they want 24.
But I think the question, we really don't have a actual map that shows where they're all located.
No, I don't have a map, not like the plumber map.
Yeah.
Of course, Kevin could probably make one. Right?
I would imagine our rural areas are probably underserved like everything else.
Yeah, and a lot of times the inspectors may work in the big city and then they help some of the rural areas in the off hours or on the weekends.
They don't have off hours and weekends anymore.
Well, no, neither do we. Well, neither do I. So, yeah,
They're busy.
but it'd be interesting. I could run them by county too. So it might be interesting to look at whenever Kevin doesn't have anything else to do. I'll put it on, we call it a radar item.
Tomorrow, let me know.
Yeah. We're thinking about it.
You're worse than I am.
Well, and you can ask them, it says radar, doesn't mean you gotta do it right now, just put it on your radar.
We'll check with you tomorrow afternoon.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Better to be under the radar.
Yeah, yeah.
Better be
And,
than waiting.
And we also want to, work on, we're gonna get some updated rules, and I think Ollie and Lynn have about got them all put together, right? For the website, and then Kevin's gonna get them up there, we're gonna get the links back and forth, and we'll have a fresh copy of the most current thing that we have as far as rules. But they've got a lot of changes going right now, so give us a little bit of time, but it's getting there. And then one day, Lynn, they're gonna be on the website and there'll be no changes to them for a while.
I wouldn't count on that.
For a very short while.
But you know, it really is, it's coming together. I've been talking for 2 years about these puzzle pieces that are coming together. And Lynn and I were talking, we can finally see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel on this rule thing. We have been piecemealing and putting it together. We now have the continuing education is finally adopted and ready for publication. So it's really coming together fast. It's probably within the next 6 months or so, we're gonna have it completed. All done.
We've gotten a lot of stuff done. And in doing that, we spent a lot of money. So with the rest of the year, we may see us pinching pennies, so you might not have a whole lot of colored copies of stuff and things like that. Because we're gonna tighten the belt, but we have gotten a lot done.
You know, the good news is, and if I'm reading this chart, am I reading this chart correctly that shows the line going up? Have we added 2,000 people this year? Individuals showing calendar year 2021, 74,270.
Yeah, these are people, the 74,270, that's the end of 2021, and you've currently added those people. Those are warm bodies.
Right under 2,000 additional people in the plumbing industry in a year. And that's pretty darn good.
That's pretty darn good.
When you look at everything else that's been going on, Gloria has been, and her crew have been slammed.
I tell you what, you go ask them and they'll say, and she and I sit down and look, we run all kinds of different numbers for different purposes, for performance measures and show and tell and stuff. And we'll talk about it and say, you know, we really feel it in the apprentices, or we really feel it here or there, and oh, look at this number, and so it's.
I mean, that's significant. That's a big jump in the numbers.
So is there a correlation, the drop from 75.2 to 74, and then boom, you spike, right? Was that,
I ask that every time.
was that people coming back, or what?
And I was just about to say, you gotta remember, there's a lot of people that came back during winter storm. And so you got a big push on those people, and we told those people that came back under that, the grace of the governor, so to speak, don't lose it, because you're gonna start all over again, so keep that license. If you're coming back in the fold, stay in the fold, you know? And, so there's some of your increase right there, but you've also got a tremendous amount of people that, are what we call reinstated. They didn't come from the storm, but they're apprentices that started out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now all of a sudden they're back. And I think it's just because they probably get a job making some pretty good money.
You know, I was told, and I don't know if it's true or not, that the oil field industry has a direct relationship with the plumbing industry. When the oil field industry is really hot, and there's a lot of jobs out there, a lot of people migrate over there and vice versa. And I guess that's true. I don't know if it is or not. I didn't understand.
Oh, it is very true.
That's there where I operate.
I'm sure you do, yes, especially.
Yeah. Soon as
So
it
a lot of
goes-
that is a kind of a fluid thing, but in any event, if you look at the workload, adding additional 2,000 people is pretty good feat. And I'm really proud of y'all being able to do it. And not having any waiting time on the testing. I mean, that's all. I've said it before, when we go to the legislature this time, we have got a real success story to tell. I cannot wait to answer some questions about what we've been doing the last couple of years. Unlike previous sessions, this time we'll have a seat at the table rather than be on the plate at the legislature. So I think that we've got a great story to tell. I'm really proud of everything everyone's done, and I can't wait to tell them.
And we appreciate our board members, I can tell you that. It takes all of us to make it happen. It takes board meetings, it takes rule changes, it takes extra staff.
And it takes patience from the industry.
Yeah,
I have to tell you, when you go around these town halls, even that it's been kind of hazy and up in the air, we still have strong support. I don't ever remember going to a town hall meeting and we got any big complaint. We had some concerns and some, I'm gonna say we didn't get any complaints. But it was not an uprising. I mean, it was support. It was support.
yeah, we've got some really good ones.
We have. So that, it all goes with it. If you have to have patient licensing base that will allow you to do these things. And for the most part, they've been pretty darn patient, especially the CE providers, because we've kind of had them scramble around, and it's really been, I know it's been difficult for them. But they've been pretty patient, pretty understanding and working with us, and I will always appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's coming together, and we've got some new providers that are knocking on the door and trying to get their stuff together and asking questions and kind of watching, and I think we've got a provider that's probably watching the board meeting today that I've spoken with 2 or 3 times, and they're trying to get some materials together, so a lot of exciting stuff going on. And I wanted to add one more little comment too. The 76,598 warm bodies that we count, they hold 101,757 different licenses. And when you say workload, that's part of that workload right there, because one person may call 2 or 3 different times. And they got this week, and then they waited 6 months, and then they said, oh, I think I want to go ahead and get that RUI, or I didn't realize I had this many hours. And so there's always some kind of need.
But we've got to always remember that high phone call volume is not a problem. It's a symptom of the problem. The real problem is our inability to educate the licensing base. If they knew the answer to it, or if it's readily available and clear to them, they wouldn't have to call. So our goal will always be clarity and communication with our licensing base, not hiring more people to answer the telephone.
And you, oh, yeah, answering those same phone calls, just like
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier, when we were at the town halls. I sat there with the computer on it, everything that I did was, you just read it, it was right there.
Mhm.
But that, and you also mentioned about TSTC, and their ability to help us out and do some of these videos. I talked to that lady last week, and we were gonna try to put some kind of meeting together with Kevin. And one of the first things I think we're gonna do is take that online license guide and do it.
Yeah.
And it's on our website. If you click on online and then look right there, there's a guide on how to do it. But I think we're gonna take that and turn that into some kind of, maybe not interactive, but at least
There's something that shows a picture rather than having to read the
and then
visual.
actually clicking on it, yeah. And talking them through it.
The
So,
thing that we've done inadvertently that have reduced phone calls at a higher percentage than anything else that we've done ourselves is by Pearson View's computer-based testing. Because so much of a volume of our call had to do with scheduling and rescheduling a test.
yeah,
And we've now handed that over. So our phone call volume should be much more manageable today than it has been in years past.
just the reschedule almost takes one or two people. And today I walked back to see how many people no show. There's 5 people that no show today.
They were scheduled for a test.
Yeah. And so those have to be handled, rescheduled. In a lot of cases, they're probably not gonna have a good reason for not showing up, so they may have to pay again and that sort of thing. So. A lot going on. And speaking of exams, and I will also, I put this in the board's packet as this colored guide that has to do with the exam pass fail rate, and I'll put it out for the providers as well. But our pass fail on the exam, we continue to remain right around the same statewide, about 70.7, 71%. Doesn't vary much, which tells me that the quality of the exam is staying where it needs to be. So,
And if you look at the Pearson View pass rate is 70.7.
yeah,
So it's right in line with the rest of it. So that's a good sign.
and overall in 22, we did 4,951 exams, and that was right at 70%. And we're at 1,506 right now. And 71.2, so,
That's 6,000 exams a year.
yeah,
Isn't that a good thing for 4,900?
yeah, it's gonna be a lot,
That's progress. That's huge progress.
yeah. Anyone else have a question or can I help them with something? No? Okay, I'm done. No, I'm not gonna talk anymore.
When you made it through, and Lisa's been sick all weekend, has made it through. We're down to Kenneth's. So Kenneth, you want to go ahead and take over with your financial?
Yes, sir, and good afternoon. I am Kenneth Tittle. I'm the Director of Financial Operations here at the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners. I'm gonna kind of break this down into part because we've been busy, the accounting, procurement, HR department has been really busy in the last year. And this kind of shows with these various reports and the different things we've done, what we've kind of accomplished. And that's kind of the point of showing you all these different reports. It's been a busy last couple of months since our last board meeting. So, first and foremost, we're gonna look at point A there, dealing with the post-payment audit. We received our preliminary results. I can't share them with you yet because they haven't been finalized with the comptroller yet. So they're still going through their finalization report. And then once we get the link to that from the comptroller, we'll be able to send you that link of the official audit report that's gonna be published. But just a quick summary of what we are and where we've been is we took some hits. We had some control weaknesses that we fixed. And, we've had some opportunities to improve. A lot of it is due to staff turnover and staff training. We've had a lot of staff turnover. We've had very junior personnel that were doing something else in the agency that have kind of been moved over to our procurement, our accounting department. And then I arrived. And I'm gonna say that my team has been very receptive. I have Alex Guerrero and I have Tyler Rondecker that have been very receptive in some of the controls I put in place. A lot of the controls I put in place, we put in place before the audit ever started, based on my experience at other agencies. Some of the recommendations the comptroller made, we put into place during the audit. I wouldn't say there was anything really that sticks out on it, but we've implemented and put processes in place to correct all but one of the items so far. And the last item we haven't corrected has been related to segregation of duties. And that's primarily because I just don't have staff trained up to use the USAS accounting system. It has to do with me right now, being the only person really that can go in and put in a document into our uniform statewide accounting system and having somebody else that can release it. So once I get my accountant trained up into USAS quote class, we'll have that taken care of. I'm estimating I'll have that done by June of this year. But everything else has been implemented. We've taken care of all the audit responses. And you'll see that in the audit report when it's published and we send it to you guys. You'll see that the things we've implemented have been implemented from back in February 2014 to about June or July, except for the one thing I'm still working on getting my staff trained on.
And we've mentioned it before about this audit, and it's not pretty, and it's not something we want to, certainly not proud of it. But it was procedural. It was due to the lack of training or lack of staff. Kenneth hadn't been here a week when he told me that we've got some deficiencies in the separation from the accounting function and the human resource issue that's still unresolved. And it's just basically because of the lack of people and the limited number of people in the departments. We can't bifurcate functions the way the state requires it. And we should, and we're working toward that. But it's not like it's something that we don't know something about. We're all aware of it. And I thank you, Kenneth, because like I said, Kenneth has fixed all but one issue that was pointed out in the auditor's report. So.
And that one issue, there is a continuing audit finding, and it happens all the time in small agencies. There just aren't enough people for segregations of duties all the time. And whenever people turn over and leave, it's an ongoing, perpetual problem.
We've had it at least 3 times, the same explanation.
But it's not something going forward, and I would tell you if I was, it's not something going forward I'm concerned about. Kenneth's on top of it, so I'm not concerned.
So are there any other questions related to the audit so far? We should be getting the link in about 6 weeks and we'll be able to send that audit report to you guys. And you guys can ask follow-up questions to me individually, or we can carry it to the board meeting. You can ask those questions. Okay, next item is the annual financial report. So for you guys that are in the business world, you're kind of used to seeing these financial statements. I have the opinion that I think our budget reports are more important to us because it's our bank account, where our bank account sits and how much we have left for our bank account. This provides a pretty good operating statement as you're used to seeing it. You've got your assets, you've got your liabilities, and you've got, in this case, what we call a fund balance or net fund change, which is your owner's equity that you would normally see on an accounting statement. And the next statement is the statement of changes in fund balance. This is your income statement, your revenues, your expenditures, and again, we still tie to that same net position, which ties back to your equity. And then all of the related notes to it. There's nothing really surprising and then like I said, my opinion, again, not very informative as far as this goes, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we spent for the year. And keep in mind, when you're reviewing these financial statements, the financial statements are for all expenditures and revenues that occurred between September 1st, 2022, or 2021, and August 31st of 2022. However, the appropriation years they cover include appropriation year 2020, 2021, and 2022. So when you're looking at
Trying to figure it out.
yeah, you're going, that's why I say it's more informative, you know, if you want an understanding of what your budget looks like by appropriation year. Appropriation years are the bank account. Fiscal year is when the money is spent. So these reflect when the money was spent, not necessarily the bank account we spent out of. If you have any questions on this, I can go into the number details, but it's very boring.
trust me, I've asked him every question that can be asked in private. And none of it matches the state accounting system. But I am comfortable with it.
It will match the state accounting system as far as the fiscal year goes, but yeah, like I said, it covers 3 different appropriation years. So what you're used to seeing in legislative appropriations can be a little different than what you see here. This is what we spent.
The most important thing is asking Kenneth, is there anything on there that causes any concern to you among this report or any of the rest of them? And there's not, and that's good enough for me. I feel really good about our situation.
The next one, I think this is item C on the tab, is our annual report of non-financial data. This is a very informative report if you want to kind of know what the agency does, but it's not really informative on telling you anything you probably don't already know. I think, in my opinion, the most important schedule that we're going to be asked about legislatively on page 3 is this hub schedule, our historically underutilized business plan. This is how much money of eligible purchases we spend with hub vendors across the state of Texas. There are a couple of senators, a couple of representatives that are very interested in these numbers. So out of this entire report, it tells you how much we spend of indirect costs, how much we spend for professional service contracts. But this will be the only thing that I think we'll ever hear about again in the near term or long term with our hub numbers. But if you have any questions about any of the numbers, yes, sir.
We're meeting the goals, if I'm reading this right.
Yes, sir. We are exceeding the goals, our statewide goals and our own goals. We only really buy in 2 categories. Sometimes we'll delve into one of the other categories, but it's pretty de minimis. It's very, very minimal how much we spend in those categories. But yeah, Alex Guerrero does a really good job of trying to pick out hub vendors and buy from hub vendors whenever we can. So we meet those standards and you see those standards. And the final thing I've got is what my budget looks like right now. This is the report you're used to seeing every month, and this is item D of our schedule. Budget revenue updates. So right now, our budget is a little tighter than usual. We've been doing a lot of things. We've got a lot of initiatives coming across the agency, and right now, I don't have very many vacancies that are giving me a lot of salary savings to cover a lot of those, a lot of any real extra items that come up. The big things I wanted to point out on my schedule here is if you look at my first schedule, I have a House Bill 636, Article 9, Section 1808, or excuse me, I have a motor vehicle section on there. House Bill 2, Section 37, motor vehicles. I have $60,000 we are appropriated. I just want to make everybody aware we're having a hard time finding vehicles right now. We can't find a vendor to give us a quote on a vehicle. We can't find a vendor we're trying to get 2024 right now so we can get on a list and get that money spent. But I'm just making you guys aware that this is potentially a chance that we may lapse this money if we can't find a vehicle.
Well, we're not gonna last it, I can tell you that. We'll find one somewhere.
Right now, I'm estimating I have about $35,000 of regular appropriations that I can use for additional things. That number I'm anticipating to grow a little bit because of some other vacancies we have. We have a couple vacancies that at the time were projected to be a vacant, but we've got a vacant receptionist, a vacant licensing, customer service representative, and I've got a vacant HR specialist. So I'm expecting that to increase just a little bit over time, but not significantly. And then I've got about $6,845 in my conference and seminars money that if we don't spend it, that will automatically carry forward based on our projection. Is there any questions on the budget?
Yeah, it's real quick. I mean, on your other operating expenses, obviously, do we just do some major buy for the full year?
Well, the big piece of that other operating expense is that $155,000 for Texas.gov that we pay. Okay. So we reimburse, that's $155,000 out of that $262,000. And then other operating is buying computers, the cars, and other operating expense. That's $60,000 for vehicles will be another operating expense. Okay. So that's the big chunk of that other operating expenses you're saying there.
We're okay. We're just
ahead. Yeah, it's just the way the comptroller takes their control object codes, their account codes, and they roll up into LDD, legislative budget board objects. Automobiles, Texas.gov, all of our printing services that we do, they all roll up into other operating expenses.
In the consumable goods, that 30, are we buying, pre-buying a bunch of, or does that include Waco? We
Our
increased our
consumable
budget.
goods is pens, pencils, paper, that's
Okay.
the office supplies, basically.
They didn't know if it was
No, sir.
back here.
We have those also roll up into other operating.
Okay.
Yeah, the other operating is a catch-all.
All that.
Okay. The next page is our revenues. This goes to December 31st instead of November 30th, because that's what Lisa had asked me to do. That's what our executive director is asking me to do. Right now, year-over-year collections, we're up about $105,454 in our licensing and examination fees year over year. And we've collected about almost $30,000 more in our civil and administrative penalties than we did at the same point in time last year. So there's just a comparison, September through December against the same time period last year. And the next thing is, this is our comparison of the monies collected for the different types of licenses compared to year over year, and what the estimated number of licenses is. And keep in mind, these are estimates based on the collections, and they're going to differ from the actual numbers that licensing has because of different timings, differences in timing related to CE or other requirements for issuing a license. I wanted to point out that we're up pretty much across the board in most of our licenses. We're up in our masters, our RMPs, our journeyman. And the big thing you're noticing here is inspectors. Like Lisa was talking about a minute ago, there's more demand for inspectors. Also, we often change periodicity for collection of investigative revenues. So that's why that number looks materially higher than it has in previous periods. And then the other thing I wanted to point out in the exams is that our journeyman exams are down significantly year over year today, and that's primarily due to us going to the computer-based testing at Pearson View, and we're not collecting that revenue anymore. That revenue is going to Pearson View now instead of to us. So I don't have the actual exam data, the number of exams we have. I think that's in another tab. But I can tell you that it's impacting our revenues because that money is going to another place. It's not
The good news about, if there is good news about that, is exam revenues represent less than 15% of the total revenue of the agency.
Yeah, it's about $150,000 to $175,000 a year. $4 million
Yeah.
collected.
So it's a small percentage, and we did give it up to Pearson View, but we worth every dime of it, because look at the backlog of eliminated, so. It's not gonna materially affect us, and also, and Kenneth has pointed this out to me, this increased numbers that we're talking about, these additional, that's gonna help us a lot going forward. When we get in another quarter or 2 quarters, those additional revenue coming in are gonna be really significant in helping us meet our budgets.
Yes.
So,
And with the exceptional items we asked for, it's gonna be.
absolutely,
critical.
it's gonna be
It's gonna be
huge,
critical in having that number to present to the legislature saying we can cover the cost of this.
because we can't spend money that we don't raise. So with this, it's all coming together with all these increased number of licensees, with these 2,000, almost 2,000 additional people. It's gonna go a long way to help us cover the expenditures that we're wanting to spend going forward, so. But with that being said, at some point in time, if we don't get there, it may require a fee adjustment. We don't know that it is yet, and I was ready to do it a long time ago, and Kenneth pointed out to me that by this increased revenue, by these additional people coming in, we might get in under the wire with it. So we're gonna let it play out for a little bit longer before we mess with the fees.
And most of that depends on what it's gonna cost, what our rate increase is gonna be on this building. It's gonna be really the tipping point.
It will. So anyway, that, I feel, and I think Kenneth agrees, we're in pretty good shape. We're coming in under the wire right now. Long term is, time is to our advantage, basically.
And that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions about anything, please feel free to contact me or Cause I know there's a lot of information to go through and a lot of numbers to digest and analyze. So if you have any questions after the fact, please give me a call.
Any other questions, Ken, before we move on?
Frank, do you feel like if we jump on fees, you're talking about licensing fees or?
Yeah.
And, I mean, well, obviously, we let the endorsement fees go back.
The endorsement, we've been hit two ways in the last few years. Number one, we reduced $100 per RFP, and that cost us $1 million. We've eliminated the renewal fee for endorsements, and that cost, I don't know how much, but it was pretty a piece of change.
Yeah, and surprisingly, our revenue, the volume increase is probably made up about half of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. About the adding additional folks, we're increasing our revenue. So we're gonna let it play out a quarter or two and see how we're doing. And if our growth continues like it has been, and we watch our expenses, we should be fine. Maybe even for our exceptional items without having to do a fee. But I hate fee increases. And if we did, it's gonna be insignificant. I mean, $1 across the board would be $75,000, you know. So it's gonna be insignificant if we do it. And I hope we don't have to. We may not have to.
Might not have to.
We'll just see.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kenneth. Give me a high level of confidence every time I talk to you. Private or public. You know, it's we're going about an hour. Let's take about a 10-minute break and we'll come back and we'll pick it up with, I guess, Steve's report. Call the meeting back to order. It's about 12 after 2. And we'll go now to our enforcement. And Steve, it's all yours.
Before we get into tab 12, just kind of want to review some of the previous things that we've done and upcoming events that we're going to be doing. I think last quarter, I think I talked to you all about in November the 4th, we were doing the cross connection demonstration for the University of Texas Aerospace Science department out there. We put that on for 35 students. I think they were trying to get 2 classes together, so we have more, but we ended up, they could only get us out for like a 6 o'clock in the evening class presentation. So we're looking at maybe this next semester, I guess this semester now, maybe doing it again for them, so we get more classes.
Yeah.
November 10th, we went to TSTC, we did the cross connection demonstration there, had 30 students. That one, and that was really a good program. I really liked, that's the first time I got to see facilities out there, so that was a nice trip and a good demonstration. Upcoming, just to let you know, March the 1st, we're going to be doing a Taylor, Texas Trades Day for the Williamson County, and that's for they do, it's high schools. They have the trades programs and different industries and different trades set up in booth fashion. So we'll be doing kind of a quick walk bys, groups of students will come by, have their drop off bus loads, and we'll get about probably 5-10 minutes with them. So we kind of can try to grab the attention, go over the highlights and kind of show them what the hazards are and why we need plumbers in the industry. And usually there's some plumbers set up with their booths to talk about maybe future employment as well. We also we're going to be April 15th. We'll be at Collin College in Allen, Texas. We've been asked to come up there and put on demonstration. It's going to be an open house from 9 to 3. So I'm not sure if we'll be doing the same thing be a kind of a walk-up type, venue, or if we'll be doing full demonstrations, and our demonstrations usually last 45 minutes, hour at the most, something like that, depending on questions and stuff, so. Another thing I think we discussed last board meeting that, I think we hadn't done the sting operation yet, but we did do a sting operation with an association with TDNR that was in Rockwall. And, the window that we had, by the time we met with TDNR, got everything set up, got our phone calls Tuesday, Wednesday, and then part of Thursday. And, we ended up, writing, 10 notices of violation, and I think TDNR was, I think they had a little bit more, they had a little more AC. Some of ours were, they come out and they were just AC. So we were working together. We had one of our field investigators in the house along with one of their investigators. So it worked out really well. We learned a lot from them, and I think they saw how we can also do it. And
What did you do? Put them an ad and say looking for plumbers, or what, how did you do that?
we look up ads like Facebook, we look up,
Oh, so you contact them.
and then we start calling them. We're requesting them to come and give us bids on work. So in this case, it was electrical, HVAC, plumbing. It all worked out well. It makes a lot of sense.
It does make
So,
sense.
Steve, real quick, I'm just curious on these, the new trend nowadays is one guy does it all, where a lot of these companies now, they do AC, plumbing, and electrical. When the one guy shows up in the truck, maybe he's got all three things in that sting house. Does he carry all three licenses?
sometimes not. In fact, one of the ones that pulled up, I think they were called out initially for HVAC advertisement, but when he pulled up, he offered HVAC and plumbing on the vehicle, and it was a bigger company, but there was only HVAC on the vehicle as far as license numbers. So he was good as far as TDNR was concerned, but he's offering plumbing, so he argued a little bit about, well, I'm not here for plumbing, I'm here for HVAC. So
You're advertising.
that's the point. So, by the time, we got with the responsible master, which they did have, explain what was going on, they corrected it. That next day it was done. So, but yeah, they're, if they're coming out to do one specific thing like electrical, and they're offering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, then they should have all three of those licenses.
How about the guy in his wallet? Is he carrying it?
Well, no, if he's just there to do HVAC, then that's the license he should have. Whatever that
If I hear my most plug,
then you might have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he continues on with that, but not only if they're electrical, then they'll also have apprentice registrations for plumbing, because when they get slow, they might want to flip over and get some help from other sides of
It seems that's something you intend to continue.
Pardon?
Is that something you intend to repeat again with TDLR?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in fact, this morning I got a call, we're trying to set something up for Lubbock. But it won't be probably till May, and yeah, we will.
Don't tell us too much, man.
Pardon?
Don't tell us too much.
Well, yeah, forget about that.
You're assuming anybody's watching.
And those guys,
At all the town halls, I tell them that you are working on setting up these sting operations, and everyone needs to be careful. And there's not a meeting that goes by, where are they gonna do that sting?
that's the problem, you gotta be ready, because,
That's right.
if we throw out the net,
I told Steve, won't even tell me, let alone me telling you.
yeah, well, I guess.
You got the right license, you don't have to worry about it. That defeats the purpose.
Hey, on the other hand, we've got all three licenses on a truck, you ask an electrician to do some plumbing work, he's, hey, that ain't my job. Most of them won't do it.
With the TDLR being able to have enforcement along our plumbing code, because their people can actually approach our plumbers. We have an agreement. How much,
I don't know, I can't speak for them, I don't know what
that's
they
my
do,
question, do they, or
I don't know.
we can,
I really don't, I wouldn't want to speculate.
Okay.
They could,
Basically, it'd be a referral, wouldn't it?
but I don't know for sure.
In our plumbing law, they actually have a power of an inspector, investigator.
And we've done the same. We've checked for electrical, we've checked for HVAC. I know that, well, when I was still in the field, we went down, to Galveston after one of the hurricanes. I mean, this was early, this is like, I don't know which one it was, but those 07 or 08 somewhere. But, yeah, and, we were checking everybody. And, I pulled up on there was an HVAC vehicle and I thought, well, let's go check them, you know, we put in a water heater. Okay, well, that's a good reason to go check them, even though they're an HVAC company. They were putting in a water heater. So, I mean, is there any questions on that, little bit of free information? As far as tab 12, we have the summary of complaint reviewed and administrative penalties imposed. That you can see, it's broken down in the total meetings that we had for board reviews. As far as the number of administrative penalties imposed, total is 89. That kind of breaks down to about 64 of those are relating to contracting without proper license or engaging without proper license. So that's approximately 2/3 of the ones that we impose penalties on have to do with not having the proper license. Now of those contracting, it's broken down into what those individuals were. Of course, 19 of them had no license at all. There were 4 apprentices out there contracting, 1 tradesman, 1 journeyman, and 1 master who didn't have the RMP, or 2 masters that didn't have the RMP. So we also break it out and show that there are complaints that we close with voluntary compliance or warning or unable to locate, no proof violation, no violation at all, no jurisdiction. Excuse me, no jurisdiction. So, for any questions on that, and we can also look at see would be B, the summary of application approved or denied. Again, total number of meetings, and of course the numbers are there. You can see the numbers of approved and denied. And if you have any questions on that.
Are the ones that were denied primarily for criminal conviction background?
Yes. Primarily.
So I think it's significant. It was 5 out of 63.
Yes, I think that's.
All right, out of 135 out of 131 total, yeah, 63.
There's 16 that.
Well, it's, of course, some are removals too, so.
There's 16 that didn't get them because of renewal.
Yeah.
At renewal.
Yeah.
So it's 21 out of 131.
That continues to be a question that comes up at town halls is, I've got a criminal conviction, does that mean I can't get a license?
Yeah, and usually the issue we have with the denials, not only is it the crime itself, and how it relates to the plumbing industry, it's how long have they been out of prison?
What
do
have
they have good?
since they've been out?
Pardon?
What have they done since they've been out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of them will have certificates that they completed programs through Wyndham or some other phases, programs that they, to better themselves. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are, some of them get their GEDs and some of them try to, better themselves while they're in there. And then others are still mandated to maybe do UAs and continue on with some rehabilitative programs. So anything that they have that they can provide along with, some of them just, they get out of jail, they're just ready to go back to work. They feel like they paid their dues, but we don't want the plumbing industry to be a place for rehabilitation. We want them to, at least to the best of our knowledge, say that we feel like they're rehabilitated. We've got a responsible master that writes a letter saying we know about their convictions. We feel that they're not a threat to the public, and they're willing to take a chance on them. Because really, I mean, that's what we're.
Steve, how many of them do you have that are, and I'm assuming I saw some of them on the agreed orders, How many do you have that fraudulently put on their application, no convictions, and yet they come back positive?
But we're getting more and more since we got fingerprinting.
I noticed that.
Yeah. I know, I just had one field investigator, he did, investigations on the last batch I sent out. He sent in, 12 new complaints. So we'll be reviewing those here shortly, so, the numbers are false info, I think we've got listed on, let's see, what was it? There's 6 on this one. But, like I said, it's just, each quarter is gonna be different, just depends on the batch that I get in.
Eventually, word will get out that the fingerprints required and that you can't slip the news line on your application.
Well, I believe that once we get through this year of
Initial,
fingerprints,
yeah,
it'll taper off, but,
I think you're right.
it's been, of course, my assistant Kathleen Stokes, she goes through and catches all those and brings me a new batch of them all the time, so. Yeah, anyone that comes across, we investigate them, there's a complaint number on them and typically they're gonna get a penalty.
Yeah.
And we do want to look to see if they've got any compliance too, and what took place, and not all of them may end up with a penalty, but, most of them seems like does, so. Report for a recent field activity, it's C. And it's pretty self-explanatory, each individual. Field rep, you see Mason Thomas Roy, he's our newest field investigator in Houston. Getting started since October the 10th, he's doing really well. And so if there's any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer them. And then D, just a summary of cease and desist orders. A lot of those, let's see, October, November. Probably from the sting operation, a lot of those are on here for cease and desist. Pretty much anytime someone contracted for plumbing, they're gonna get a cease and desist.
As a matter of fact, all 15 of these were either unlicensed or improper license.
Right, so.
All 100%.
So. And I don't think there's any action of the board on these.
Not on those, no.
And then E is the board order for administrative penalties paid by agreement. So these are going to be penalties that have been paid and received and documented. So they're brought before the board for approval.
Steve, I have looked through all these and they all make sense to me, and thank you for putting the frequent flyers list on the bottom that's got the previous violations.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a little surprised, and I hope we don't see him again. It was the Chesney guy. We've collected $58,000 in the last 4 years for repeat penalties. And I'm not sure that has it's for your determination, but I can't see why a suspension or revocation is not the next order of business on him. I've been seeing his name ever since I've been on the board. And like I say, he's accumulated $58,000 of penalties in the last 4 years. If that doesn't rise to a level of at least a suspension, if not a revocation, I'm not sure we'll ever get there.
It was even when I was a field rep, there was those issues with that same company. So I think now it's to the point where they've got multiple responsible masters. And
well, in my opinion, you ought to have one less.
Yeah.
The next time it comes around. That's your call. But
well,
if ever there was a situation that somebody needed to be revoked or something,
One habitual offender.
Yeah.
Well, I think since now Lynn, she doesn't have anything to do now, so.
That's right.
This is not, I mean, I'm not joking about this.
I know you're not.
But we can sit down and go over some issues because again, now the transition from RMP to employer and how we're gonna deal with that. So,
but still, he's carrying a license of an RFP, and that needs to end if somebody is going to totally ignore the previous penalties. And penalties are not as much for punishment as they are to act as a deterrent. And obviously penalties are not acted as a deterrent for this gentleman. So I can't imagine a case more ripe for suspension or revocation than someone along those lines. And I think the board is along the same feelings. We're not, I mean, I get giving a guy a chance, but when a guy thumbs his nose at you and just continues to do it over a period of years, there's nothing left for you to do other than suspend him or revoke his license.
And he's basically got his own page on the previous violator report.
It does. So I mean, it's just a matter of, it's obvious that he's not paying a bit of attention or doesn't care. He's just factored in the cost of doing business and just doesn't worry about it. So he and I'll put it to you this way. If he's back on our agreed order sheet the next time, you're gonna have a hard time explaining why he's not revoked or suspended.
Just don't show up, right?
No, I didn't say that, but be prepared because if anyone was a candidate who would appear, and there's nothing wrong with saying it, it's all public record, so he may not care. And if he doesn't care, just keep doing what you've been doing and you won't be carrying a license anymore. So,
Yeah, I think,
other than that, any other questions on the board orders that, and as I understand that these have already been settled and the money is already collected on them?
Correct.
Any other questions or comments on the board order of administrative penalties? If there are not, we'll need a motion to approve these and authorizing me to sign the appropriate documents.
Justin, I move approval of the board order as presented and move that we authorize the chair to sign them.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, James Angler.
A second, Mr. Ainsworth. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
and then next is F would be just the default orders. And these are a list of those that are, have not made any contact back from the issuance of the notice of alert violation. And if we'll need action on the board on this.
Any question on the default orders that are under tab 15? And if not, a motion is in order to approve the default orders, authorizing me to sign the default orders.
So moved, Daniel.
Second,
Milton, second.
Milton seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
And I think G is Lynn.
Yes, we're at the home stretch. The last order that we have is a case against Eric Nava. This case is the last case the OAG has had from us and is representing us on. They've had it for a while. They're just now bringing this to conclusion. They docketed this with SOA, and then Mr. Nava wished to settle it rather than go through with the administrative hearing. He made a settlement. It was accepted by the enforcement division, and this is the resulting order from that. When we, should you decide to agree to the settlement, then I've instructed the OAG's attorney to then do this off of a docket. But we're gonna wait to see what you want to do with this, and then we'll pull it off. So it's docket. Mr.
has the money been collected?
The money has been collected, check cash.
Board, it would be in order, if you see fit, to go ahead and approve this agreed final order issued by SOA as a settlement of this case.
It's Justin, I move approval.
Second, Bill. Second by Bill Stout. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Steve, anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you for your work. Thank your field investigators for their work. They,
We will miss Mr. Mott.
he sure will. He's a neat guy. I got the chance to spend a little more time with him when I was in Dallas, Fort Worth.
And it's a lot of knowledge.
It sure is.
That's gonna be hard to
Sure is.
fill, so we'll find somebody.
Okay. All right, I think we're down to public comment. Anybody hold out?
I have one in person, Mr. Mata.
Yes, well, yeah. Thank you for
No problem.
coming.
No problem. Yeah, no problem, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, board members, my name is John Mata, Director of Field Services for the IAPMO Group. I would like to speak in support of agenda item 13. We are 100% in favor of the board accepting a third-party certification for bed gas installer. 25 states now across the nation recognize and utilize the ASSE 6010 certification. This recognition will allow a proctored exam at training centers within ITC as a third party. This is especially timely considering applicants that are waiting for a journeyman exam. This gives us an opportunity to shorten the wait time for MedGas endorsement. More and more jobs are requiring the installer to certify to ASSE standards, so we are doing this anyway. This will go a long way in ensuring that the workforce can meet the demand and need, especially when you consider that surrounding states that surround Texas, like Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana, are already recognizing ASSE. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could, just one thing, I'm happy to report, Mr. Chairman, that you have been allowed 71K. I just got the.
You'll remember of it. You're honored.
I have to tell you, when I have to beg for it, is that.
Just call me, Mr. Chairman.
That's what you asked for.
I know.
Got a friend now.
I know, that's why it's right. One thing on this ASC 6010, thank you for saying that. And I hope that you'll make a public comment, a written comment also when it's posted. But one of the issues that I hear repeatedly over and over and over again, that engineers and contractors require an ASSE certification. At some point in time, I would love to see our Texas exam, once we meet those same standards, Bill, that the engineers say it's a Texas certification or an ASSE certification. That's going to be a hard ship to turn, because most of those folks are taking those just off templates from previous contracts. And there's no need to try to look at it. Some way or another, once we get their standards on an equivalency with ASSE, I'm going to be looking for your help to try to crack that nut where those engineers will also accept us.
Well, don't hold your breath.
Well, you know what? If it were easy, I wouldn't ask a person like you to do it.
If it was easy, that's the only time you should have.
But all kidding aside, that is something that really is a problem in Texas. And at some point in time, we need to demonstrate the quality of our tests. And somehow or other get ASSE to recognize it at least as an equivalent and try to figure out some way to try to crack that nut. Don't say no yet. Don't say no yet.
Sir?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And I was just gonna mention that ASSE understands that our exam is equivalent. The training that we're gonna work on soon should resolve any problems with Bill's population, I guess, but we'll see how that all works out. And we're gonna try to talk to them and find out if we can maybe use their logo or something like that.
Something, but
Interchange.
and I know it's a difficult thing to change past practice in this ASSE certification, but I can assure you it'll never happen unless we try. So,
Especially they like
Yeah.
to get it right.
and you know, it just becomes a part of a template of a
Yeah.
contract that you keep using over and over and over and
Well,
over.
it's a lot bigger of an issue than that, because it's going to be having to get in with the insurance carrier.
Sure.
Because it's
It's a huge,
it ain't happening.
it's a huge,
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say that. I'm not willing.
There is a path, but we'll work.
That's all I want to know, that there's a path. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you very much. Any other public comment?
Yes, sir, we have two, Mr. Bobby Duran.
Good, okay. Mr. Duran, are you with us? Can you hear us?
That be. There you go.
We're getting you connected right now, Mr. Duran, if you can hear us.
You should be able to speak now.
Mr. Duran, say something, we'll see if we can hear you.
I have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now? There you go. Can you hear me now?
Sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have difficulty in hearing anymore.
Thought you transferred over to Verizon.
I wasn't gonna say anything today, but you know, you stirred me up a little bit. Anyway, you guys are doing a great job. I really appreciate what you're doing. Don't get me wrong. But what really bothers me, one of the biggest things that we had, the rally, was not to discredit the integrity of this industry, which concerns me with this direct supervision. And if you go back to the rally, you'll see that that was one of our main things, not go the TDLR, because they're going to get rid of it. So I'm an RMP, if I was, and I'm going to have my video screens here, and I'm going to be supervising all these apprentices out there. What do I need a plumber for? And you're going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to hire a handyman off the street, get him an apprentice card, put him on a truck without any experience or any type of integrity whatsoever. What's going to happen to this industry? This industry is going to drop off. That was the whole fight. So it bothers me that without proper training, education, documentation, we have that for the apprentices now to get that license. Or maybe if you do something like this, maybe just new construction residential, but not in the repair business. It's going to affect it. It's going to hurt the industry. And you're going to have the plumbing value, the licensed plumber, their value is going to drop. That's my concern. And it's always been my concern. And like I said, you go back and listen to those speeches, a lot of that's about that. So the other thing is, you got a situation where there's no experience, no qualification, no challenges. I mean, I just had a guy call me this morning. Did I sweat underneath the slab? Well, you couldn't even saw solder under the slab, and he's a licensed plumber. And it was just nothing more than 2 hours ago. And I'm sitting there saying, braise it, get all the water out of the line. He says, what do you mean? I said, blow the water out of the line. You can't even soft solder it underneath that slab. I mean, this is a problem. Upselling, you know what I'm thinking about that. That's a problem. You have people out there overselling projects right now. I'm going to sell you 300 feet of pipe, or I'm going to sell you a whole repipe when it's not necessary. It's going to get worse if you do this. And the money, and this is all about money with these plumbing companies, especially the repair businesses. The integrity will be gone. And that's my concern about that. And I will be talking about this and continue to add, and I will have a lot of plumbers write on this public comment thing, because this is really something we have to be concerned about. You're going to have some good people out there, don't get me wrong, but you also got people out there trying to cheat the system. And that's what bothers me. And remember, that rally we had was specifically for, one of the comments was direct supervision. And I teach in Kansas. They don't have licenses in the state. They have city licenses. And they're telling me, how do we get the same thing you guys have in Texas? And so you got to go to your legislature. And I go to Kansas 4 times a year teaching up there. And they're crying for what we have. And we're trying to disrupt the integrity by allowing apprentices out there unsupervised on a video. That's scary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. We appreciate your comments and your concern. Don, anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Scott Wynn.
Mr. Wynn. Mr. Wynn, we're in the process of connecting. When you're ready.
You should be good. You need to unmute.
Mr. Wynn, can you say something?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Wynn with ICC Wynn Career Education. I would like to start by saying, as always, we thank you, the board. We thank the staff for all the hard work you do. We know there's a lot to do. We know there's a lot of kickback from all opposing sides of all that story and so on and so forth. So we do appreciate everything you're doing for our trade. I just want to comment on a couple of things mentioned during the meeting today. One of them was the bumper stickers. I think it's a great idea. We've actually done that in the past. We created, I can't remember, a couple of thousand bumper stickers, and we handed them out during continuing ed classes, mailed them out, so on and so forth. It wasn't as hugely popular as we had hoped it would be, but we did eventually use up all those bumper stickers. So it is probably something we will plan to do again someday as well. We just love getting that word out there on the bumpers. You'd be amazed, or maybe not amazed, depending on where you live, on how much time you have sitting in traffic reading all the bumper stickers in front of you. So we think it is a very worthwhile project. Secondly, mentioning the backflow demonstrator. Also love that program. I've been able to attend one in person. I've seen videos of them, excerpts of them, and I preach to all of our students that hopefully someday you get to go to the state board and take an exam in that building and see their backflow demonstration. That is huge. That is something extremely important in not only the eyes of the plumbers, but everyone, every citizen, everyone who touches a plumbing, a water system. That's important for them to understand all of that. And going along with that, we are now approved BPAT providers through the TCQ BPAT required classes, backflow prevention assembly testers. We teach those just about every month. They are hugely popular. There are a lot of people getting into this trade. Along with that class, we have a mobile traveling testing trailer where we actually have the backflow devices mounted. We attach them to water. The students come out and see them, play with them, and then they actually test on them. They perform their practical tests at the end of that 40-hour course. We would be happy to volunteer our trailer if you all ever do get a video made and would like a few excerpts of someone actually testing backflow preventers. We would like to offer that to you all as well. We think it is a fantastic program. With that, again, other than just thank you for all the work you all do, your staff has been very helpful today, answering all of my questions just on the question and answer. So we appreciate everybody, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. I appreciate your participation. Dawn, anyone else? Okay, anyone else have anything they'd like to say? All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I believe we may have, I thought we covered it at the October meeting, but now I'm re-reviewing it, and I think we missed mentioning that Stanley Briers passed on October the 10th.
I don't think we did.
Did we?
Did we?
Yeah, we mentioned it.
We did.
On the fifth meeting on the 5th.
Maybe we didn't at the meeting. Lisa and I attended the funeral, and
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in the industry that doesn't know that
Yeah.
Stanley has passed away, and
Yeah.
what a great loss to the industry it was, and what an icon he was. I always loved to tell the story that he was one of the first week I was here. I came to Austin, I talked, and his name kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And I made the mistake of calling him when I left Austin. And I got him on the phone, and I finally hung up when I got to Brenham, which is about an hour and a half away. So he was a world of information, a real gentleman, and certainly an icon in the industry. So, so thanks for bringing that up, Lisa. Anything else other than our next meeting or agenda items for our next meeting?
To reiterate that as much notice as we can have in advance, the better.
Let's tip. Lisa, what do you think about the end of March? And I say that because I think March 5th is the last day bills can be filed in the legislature. 15th. So sometime after the 15th, and by that time we'll know if there's any bills that are directly affecting us. If it's okay with the board, let's tentatively look at a day after the 15th of March before the 1st of April. That kind of fit with the staff.
Well, we can go back and look at it, but I think it does.
Okay.
Just to miss people's spring breaks, probably ought to be the last.
Yeah, that is true.
Spring break is a huge issue. Let's look at the last week of March, then. We certainly don't want to hit during spring break.
But you gotta look around South by Southwest and spring break.
We'll do that,
Yeah.
but let's look at that time frame. Latter part of March, maybe to weekend. Anything else? Any items that we've covered today that you won't see on the agenda next time that we didn't cover today?
Support gas supplies.
Sorry?
Support gas supplies.
Yep. Support like gas appliances.
Water heaters.
You go on the record, this board supports, keeping gas appliances. Other than Bill, he's gonna abstain.
He's going all electric.
That's right. Thank everyone who attended. Thank those of you who stayed with us online. Thank all the commenters for your comments. And with that being said, unless there's any further business, we'll call the meeting.